Hey everybody, welcome to this wonderful workshop that David and I have put together for you today. And this is going to be really cool if you're in the podcasting space or podcast adjacent, as I like to call it. This could be super valuable to you in addition to all the other wealth of information that you're going to glean from this guy. He's really incredible. And so I'm going to just give you a bit of an introduction of him. I've known David for a few years now. We first met on the Marketers Cruise and have gotten to hang out there a few times over the years. And the top 10 reasons you're going to want to listen to David today are: number one, he is a guest lecturer at universities from UCLA in California to Kenyatta in Kenya. He's a columnist at the Los Angeles Tribune with multiple bylines in USA Today, winner of Keeps, which was formerly Infusionsoft, Entrepreneur Educator of the Year, author and co-author of more than a couple dozen #1 best-selling books, including Word Genius, Becoming Significant, and Cracking the Icon Code. He's a former CEO of Guerrilla Marketing, the book series that sold 23 million books, that's million, in 62 languages around the world. He has consulted, curated content, and or published over 220 books. Incredible. Man, you're a busy guy there. Former host of the California cable TV show, The Hollywood Entrepreneur, featured in publications including Forbes, Investor, Business Daily, and New York Weekly. Produced and co-produced special broadcasts like Think and Grow Rich Tour, Neuroscience Summit, and Money Forum Live. And finally, interviews on major television shows, including Fox and Friends, Fox's The Five, What's Happening Now, The Doctor Show, New to the Street, Neil Cavuto, and The Today Show. So without further ado, let's bring up the man, the myth, the legend, David Fagan.
Thank
David,
you. Thank you.
you bet.
I
I'm going to
appreciate that.
spotlight you here. Of course, I appreciate you coming in and sharing your wealth of information for not just my crowd in the podcasting space, having been a coach of podcasting for 10 years now, but also the people coming in from your world who are going to get some great value out of this as well. So I'm just going to let you take it away, and I'm here if you need me for anything, but I'm
Great.
going to be learning from you just like everybody else.
Great. Yeah, I see some familiar faces, but I also see lots of new people, which was the point of this. So thank you, Michael, for helping me connect to some new talent, if you will. So first and foremost, we're a talent management agency, and we work very specifically in the world of publishing, publicity, production, show production, event production. We just got approved to do documentaries for Bloomberg TV. So today is kind of talent scouting. And how this event came to be was me and Michael were talking about the talent in our groups and in our lists and, how we might connect each other. And I told Michael, we were talking about things we might teach or share. And I said, quite honestly, I just want to hear from your people. I would love to just kind of figure out what kind of shows they're doing, what kind of projects they're working on. And I'm going to explain more of why that is in a second. Maybe it's going to come a little bit obvious to some of you, but I would never dare to assume that you just get it. That's always dangerous to make assumptions. But we're looking for a lot of content, and it's not the sexiest way to explain what we do, right? The sexier way is talent management, Beverly Hills, right? Publishing, publicity, production. But the less sexy way to say it is we're in the content creation game, right? And we're always looking for talented people to help us create content. And there are a lot of struggling big city newspapers out there. I say struggling, it's all relative. They're not billion-dollar organizations anymore. Maybe they're multi-million-dollar organizations. And everyone's just looking for a different way to create content, get their content out, get their content distributed, advertise, sponsor, all of that kind of stuff. Same thing with TV networks, right? Bloomberg TV is a very big, robust
You know this
channel, but
guy?
we all know that
You
cable
painting me for?
television is kind of going away or isn't as potent as what it used to be, right? So I just want to educate people a little bit on what the media world's looking like, what's happening within the media world, and how the opportunities have shifted. They haven't gone away. They've just shifted. Okay. Anybody remember that book, Who Moved My Cheese? That was really popular back in the day. Haven't heard anybody talk about it for a while, but it's a little bit of that, right? It's just now every 3 to 6 months, and sometimes it can feel like every 3 to 6 minutes. It's who moved my cheese, like who moved the goalpost, who changed the finish line, right? And if you are doing a podcast, most likely you are an early adapter, which just basically means, you saw opportunities and you got there maybe before other people. At this point, it's still good to do books, but a lot of people have books. It's still good to do a podcast. A lot of people have podcasts. Does it mean you shouldn't do a book? No, you should. Does it mean you shouldn't do a podcast? No, you probably should. It just means that if you're doing what everybody was doing even 6 months ago, let alone 6 years ago, you're probably missing out. You're probably having a longer learning curve. And so we want to collapse timeframes. We want to shorten the learning curve. And we want to kind of explain to you the way some of these media opportunities have evolved. But again, a big part of this was me learning about you all, who here. And actually, you know what? Let's start to kind of do this in a little bit of in a chat session. Let's get some things in the chat here that we can save and kind of follow up on here. But I'm going to define a few questions. And Michael, I think you'll be interested to see this as well. We all kind of probably have an idea. Like if I asked Michael, I would say, "Hey, Michael, how many of your people do you think wrote a book? Or how many people do you think have more than not just a podcast, but more than one show? How many people think have more than one book?" Like me and him both, even all of you probably have some guesses, but it's kind of good to actually see. One of the things that I learned from my mentor, Jay Conrad Levinson, the father of guerrilla marketing, is marketing is measuring. Marketing is measuring, right? And so we're going to measure some things here just in a second. But I just want you to know this is a lot about you and giving you an opportunity to kind of pitch me about who you are and what you're doing. We were really trying to balance this out. And you may not believe this, but it was like me and Michael knew like if we have, 70, 80, 90, 100 people, 100 plus people, like we probably wouldn't be able to, give you all an opportunity to tell us what you do. And that is an important, part of this. We want to measure these things. But as the former CEO of Guerrilla Marketing that sold over 23 million books in 62 languages, I can tell you marketing is measuring, as my mentor, Jake Conrad Levinson said. So in the chat, do this for me first. If you have a podcast, I want you to go in and write the name of your podcast in the chat, please. If you have two podcasts or two shows, you can give me two. If you have more than two, just give me the top two, please. So Elizabeth Johnston, Own Your Creativity. Tasha, Secrets of Earning Money. Kim Gross, Mass Offer, People Pleasers and Perfectionists. Nice. Okay. Angela, Michael, Kelly. Okay. So good. This is starting to fill up already. Okay, great. So this is good. I want to get these in there. Now, I asked for a podcast, but specifically, I'm curious of these podcasts, how many are also actually, let me go about the other way. I want to know how many are just podcasts. Like you don't video it and it airs anyplace else. It's just a podcast. Just a podcast. So if you filled it in, the title of the show, just put podcast in there for me, will you please? And I'm going to explain this why in just a second. We have some different platforms that we can quickly, turn podcast into shows. I think most people nowadays, their podcast is more of a full-on show, meaning it's not just recording the audio, but it's recording the video as well. Michael, as they're listing out some of these, I'd love to hear your opinion. Like me, David Fagan, personally love to hear your opinion. I think everybody else would as well. What's the advice you give to people in your group, in your movement, in terms of do you make it a podcast? Do you make it a show? No right or wrong. Do you Do you try to get them to just get the podcast up and going? Are you telling them that it should just be a show and part of it's a podcast? What's your belief system and
Yeah.
all that?
Yeah, great question. For me, and I've taught it this way for years, is that certain shows if are more amenable to doing as a video versus
Mhm.
others are totally not. And so most of
Mhm.
my shows, especially because I started way back when it was just strongly audio only, I was recording in my pajamas, because it was just audio, no video. And that is very effective. And with that show, by the way, it was a 7 day a week show. And as I grew that to, I decided I was going to do video, and it blocked me. I went dark for 7 months, not releasing anything. I was recording, but I was never happy with any of the video. It always looked boring and talking heads. And so I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm recording, but not releasing. So I went back and just stripped the audio and did audio only. So the bottom line answer to your question, David, is doing video, if it gets in the way of you putting out the content, then don't do it. But if you can do the video effectively and do both, then yes, get it out there. And especially if what you're putting out in your podcast is better towards video, then absolutely do video. So if it's a cooking show or a fitness and you want to show people exercises, or as an example, one of my shows I started as video audio only. The PodQuest show was what it was called. It's all about podcasting, but I've rebranded it to become the podcast guy, and I'm going to start doing it as video because I show people how to do things. And so
Yeah.
therefore video is important.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. I think my answer is probably very, similar to yours. We always want to one time the business, right? So if you're being there and you're putting on the show anyways, probably the only difference is, taking a shower and getting dressed and, turning on a few, a few lights and a
Lights.
few cameras,
All right.
no, I mean that, it's easier said than done, I know, but, if you've gone that far, yeah, maybe you want to do the show as well. So let me give you a little bit of media education. Let me give you all a little bit of media training in the sense of deeper content creation and exposure. And I want to talk to you about probably the newest, hottest thing that we're doing. And it's interesting how many times uh, the newest, hottest thing happens accidentally on purpose, right? And I only say on purpose because we're always trying to improve, but sometimes the things that we didn't even know um, was an opportunity become the greatest advancement. So everybody kind of saw podcasting, everybody's seen books, all these things are good. You want to keep doing them. But what we have found is not only are we getting people interviewed for big city newspapers, lists, all kinds of things. We're going to talk about that more in a little bit. But we've also found that we're able to pitch people to write articles or op-ed pieces. And what happens is not only can you write for a publication, but after you write so many times, you can literally become a columnist. So just like the podcast has the advantage of you being able to interview somebody, offer value to somebody by being able to give them exposure, you can do the same thing as a columnist. But let me go one step further. Not only can you write for a publication and become a columnist after having so many articles in publication, you can write for different publications, which then makes you a syndicated columnist. Now, there's a lot of semantics in the world, right? Which just means we hear the word and it means something different to all of us, or it means something different to the person saying it. So, um, a show becomes syndicated when it's on more than one network. Okay. So if you have a podcast and you're on Spotify and iHeart and everything else, technically you can consider that a syndicated show. I had a radio show for years. back before it was cool and also when it was cool. And I was on every day, 12 to 1 p.m. I was on before Dr. Laura on an old-fashioned AM station. This is like going 2007 to like 2009. This really goes back a little ways. Um, but eventually it got picked up at different stations in different states. Hence, it was a syndicated show. Now, some of them would only pick up 1 hour, where I might do 2 hours. Okay. Now, there's a reason why I'm telling you this. So stick with me here for a second. So, just like you can have a syndicated show, you can become a syndicated columnist. So, when you're walking in a room and you're meeting people, when you're raising your profile, when you're applying for things, just like it's fun to say, hey, I'm a best selling published author, I have a top 20 podcast, I'm a columnist. I'm a syndicated columnist, right? One of the other advantages of being columnist or a syndicated columnist is instead of just looking for press, you become the press. Just like as a podcast host, instead of becoming, instead of just looking for shows to be on, you become the show that you have all the time. So it's very similar. So I had a feeling that Michael Neely's people who are podcasters or who do that as part of their exposure plan, their marketing plan, as a part of a way to kind of advance their mission, their message. If they get podcasting, they're going to kind of get this. Because what's happening is while a lot of publicists are pitching magazines and newspapers to get their clients in, or a lot of people are pitching themselves to get in. What we've done is we've made partnerships with different media outlets. Probably the two most successful ones were USA Today and the Los Angeles Tribune. And we pitched them in the sense of, hey, instead of us trying to convince you that we got the biggest, best expert, or instead of us uh, paying to be in different types of publications, what if we saved you money, right? Like you may not need as many reporters, as many journalists. You need all this content to create, right? And I want this to really make sense to you. So what I want you to understand is when things used to be more of a newspaper, you could only fit so many things on a page. So they had to pick the best of the best to be in those 50 pages, to be in those 100 pages, right? So it was limited space. So it made it very competitive. It's still competitive in the terms of quality, but there isn't so much of a limit of quantity. Why? Because so much of the content wars are being fought online on websites. So what this means is the Los Angeles Tribune, the DC Chronicle, the London Digest, the Atlanta Post, all these big city newspapers we work with, right? The New York Independent, they all need stories. So what we did is we started pitching them as, hey, we know writers, we know show hosts, we know speakers, we have people that have something to say, we have people that have expertise, right? And because we're used to editing and we know the rules of publishing and publication and all that kind of good stuff, we not only went into kind of beta programs, but we had some pretty big success stories where a lot of these publications now, we have partnerships with them where we have content goals. And I even have more newspapers that want to work with us. Why can't I take on even more big city newspapers? I don't have any more content, right? So I need I need more content creators. Now you might say, well, David, there's hundreds of them, there's thousands of them. Well, I also have to make it a working business model, because otherwise my for-profit business would just run around creating content for everyone that's essentially free. So it's really important that when I'm explaining to people, when we work for you, when we publicize you, when we represent you, when we manage you, when we promote you, when we get you these articles, you would pay us to get it placed, to get it in there, to make sure that it's right. But we're not paying the publication. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with paying a publication. There are times that we pay different things to get different media opportunities. There's nothing wrong with that. But it does feel better, right? Everybody always feels better when it's like, hey, I didn't pay to get in this. It's because of my expertise, because of my brand, it's because of my talent. We're in. That's what we're doing, right? We're scouting talent. We're looking for people like you. We're looking for experts. And then we bring you opportunities. In the last week alone, we brought 2 opportunities to our list. We'll email it out. One was an article that the Los Angeles Tribune magazine's looking for. It was wild stories of people who use their intuition, right? So they wanted us to collect stories of people where they heard a voice, they saw something, they felt something, they acted upon it, and something really magical happened, right? And so we were going to round that up. That article is already full. It went pretty quickly. It was $900, not to the Los Angeles Tribune, but to us to help write it, make sure it fit, word count, it's what they wanted. We had to go through them all, whatever. If you're offended by paying a publicist, by having somebody represent you and promote you, then some of what we're talking about, really wouldn't be for you. But it's really clear to understand because sometimes people get confused. Hey, David, the press you're doing, the media you're doing, are you paying these places? The answer is no. I'll give you another example. The other media opportunity that we sent out, and we've got probably 20 or 30 of them just right now, but occasionally we'll blast it out to the whole list. First, we'll give our internal clients kind of first shot at it. If it's a lot of it, we need more people than what we have in our internal clients, we'll broadcast it to our whole list. Feature Me Now list. I'll tell you how to get on that list in a second so you can see those opportunities. But another one we just did last weekend was the New York Independent is doing a story on near-death experiences. And that's typically when we'll get more reporters or journalists or papers coming to us, is when it's a little bit difficult. Like they don't want to do the legwork, right? You got to understand they all want to be spoiled. So we make their lives easier, which is a good expert tip to you. You want to get in the press. How do you make their life easier? How do you do their work for them? But we had they wanted at least 5, but they wanted people who had had a near-death experience and came back and changed everything. It changed their life. They had a message. Their purpose, shifted. Moss Sajadi, Sir James Gray Robinson, Holly Porter. Anyways, I think that one's all filled up as well. But these are just 2 examples of what we're looking to fill. In January, right before me and Michael went on the cruise, and several of you guys here went on the marketers cruise as well, we had the DC Chronicle come to us and say, hey, we're going to do something called Global Women to Watch in 2024. Top 24 women to watch, global women to watch in 2024. Brene Brown was on the list. Barbara Cochran was on the list. I think we ended up getting 12, 13, 14, 15 people of the 24 on that list. Now, all of those people weren't necessarily like active clients, but they're people we just went out and found, even people I just knew on Facebook that met the qualifications. They wanted people that speak internationally. Maybe their show goes internationally. Maybe they do business internationally, but they have kind of a global brand. But these lists can be really popular things. Sometimes we just need somebody so bad we don't charge anything at all. We're like, hey, it's just free. It's on us. You're doing us a favor. We just need the content. But a lot of times the best ones that people want to be in, they go pretty quick. So just out of curiosity, how many people here would like to get the email, the Feature Me email where we send out these things? If you do, in the chat, just put Feature Me. Just put Feature Me. There's a specific list. You can type it in the chat. Just put Feature Me. I don't think it's going to be a fit for everybody here, but we'll show you how to get on that list to get those emails and kind of learn about those opportunities. But we find that show hosts are typically good content creators. They're good potential columnists. They're good potential syndicated columnists. They're good people for us to use for our content goals. I don't want to give away all my secrets, and there's a little bit of a land grab going on for partnerships with these different papers. There's a place called Gannett. Gannett owns hundreds of newspapers. Their biggest newspaper is USA Today. So when these newspapers see what we're doing, we'll get other papers calling us up saying, "Can you help us? Can you help us?" Now, how I strike these deals is being able to give them so much content. In the beginning, I only took on a few. In the last 3 months, we've taken on 7 or 8 more big city newspapers that you probably have more regularly seen clients with. And I'll show you what some of those papers are. One of them's the London Digest, the Atlanta Post. There's the New York Independent, which is in kind of a family of papers. So it's also the Seattle Independent. There's the DC Chronicle, also family of papers, Chronicle. Another one's the Miami Chronicle. I'm sure there's a few others, but you get the idea. So what that means is to save them from having to hire people, give them a place to work, insure them, health insurance, fire them, train them, all the things it does do with employees. We have to create so much, content. Sometimes, believe it or not, like I'm up in the middle of the night writing an article. I got so much press, more than I can handle. You might think that sounds funny, but truly. And I'm writing articles just because I don't have anybody else that's doing articles. I'm going over to Angela saying, "Angela, please, will you write another article for us?" Right? Angela's a client, paying client, done a bunch of stuff, done a bunch of worked with us for years now. She is a perfect case study. And Angela, if you don't mind, I wanted to add you just for a second to the spotlight. Could you kind of just share your experience of just kind of the chronological order? Like, what did we first do and how did we pitch you? And then how did you write? And then, maybe even list out me if you remember some of the articles you write and, how many articles you're writing now, and just kind of share the columnist journey a little bit for everybody here.
Yeah. So initially, as a part of my contract with you to launch my third book, I was offered to write an article in the Los Angeles Tribune. It was, one of the deliverables in the contract. And they liked it. So they asked for more. And I think I wrote probably 10 to 12 articles for the Tribune over a year's time. And then they invited me to be a columnist. And then I felt an obligation as the columnist to submit articles. So I started doing one a month for them. And then as you expanded, I got to submit articles as part of our contract to other newspapers. And right now I'm writing about 2 articles a week.
Yeah. Great. Great. So tell us some of the publications you've had, articles in, and well, yeah, let's just start with that. Tell us some of the ones you've had articles in.
A fun article in the London Digest about children's education. Yeah, I've been in the Seattle Independent, I think it is.
Yeah.
On mental health for children. And I know I was in Miami with a parenting, I don't know, it's a teacher an article about children's education, basically. So, the articles that are listed under printed with my brand are all focused on parenting and children.
Nice. So a lot of people are trying to think about, where do these newspapers go? What do they reach? some of the problems or challenges are like, well, I'm in Boise. What do I care about an article in New York City? Everybody listening, this is about credibility. This is about influence. And most of us do not have local brick and mortar places. So the reason that we like the big city newspapers so much is because beyond bragging rights, which definitely exists, this is where it is going to reach the most people and be the most impressive, to other people in the business. And you can leverage that. And we have a list of the top 10 things you can do. And it should be the same for your show as well. And this is one of the free resources that we're going to give out today is what to do after the press. Like a lot of people even get press and it's like, now what? I didn't get anything out of it. Did you share it? Did you email it? Did you make any kind of image of it? Did you post it in social media? Did you share it with anybody? Which again, the people who are writing for places like Forbes and Huffington Post, which we've done before as well, you have to remember their job is to show that publication that it gets read. So you want to share your article, you want it to get clicked, just like your podcast, you want it to be viewed, right? So here's I'll share my screen here, Angela. This is the Miami Chronicle. I just did a search results for Angela. Book review, Princess Bella comes up here. So here's the Miami Chronicle here for a book review. Here's the article I was telling you all about, Global Women to Watch in 2024. Here's a grid of women. You might recognize some of these women. This is Nim Stant. This here is Brandy Vale, Allison, Sarah Davison. She's in London. Dee Dee Wong, Dame Dee Dee Wong. This is Moira. These two here are actually on our Kenya keynote tour. Ruth here. Yeah, so you could see all this is just the Miami Chronicle. But would this press be good for you? What would you do if you had this press? Where would you share it? How would you leverage it? I'll show more examples in a second. Michael, you're a smart guy. That's the word on the street. You see things, you connect dots. Thank you, Angela. I might come back to you here in a second here. But Michael, how are your wheels turning right now as you see all this? Because I know you knew some of this, but you didn't necessarily you hadn't seen it maybe this much in detail. So how are your wheels turning for you and your people?
They're really cranking here right now, David, and I'll just let you know, share a little bit of my backstory. So I started out, part of the whole reason I started my podcast was to grow a list to promote a book that I had hoped would get published. And it all happened when the publishing house, I was filling out the acquisitions questionnaire and they started asking questions like, how big is your following? How big is your email list? How many Twitter fans? How many Facebook fans? And I was like, oh, they want me to sell the book. And I hadn't put that together quite yet. And so I started the podcast. But the other thing I did was I started to try to get published in a few places. And I submitted some articles and got published in Elephant Journal and Tiny Buddha. And this is all while I'm doing my show, Consciously Speaking. So they were geared along that realm. And I just have to say a couple things. One, much like when I first started podcasting before I realized what a podcast could be, I had no clue and I was thinking small. And I think that's part of the piece that I'm picking up right now here as well is like, oh, there's a whole other level that I could take this to, because the value, by the way, and I saw someone had a question about what it pays to be as a columnist. For me, submitting the articles was all about the byline. It gave me credibility and people found me. It started, you're able in a byline to often put a little direction. People will search you out. And so that value alone was enormous. And again, I'm way underplaying it. There's a whole bit I haven't even thought of.
So most of it's online. Some of it is print. This is, we do a lot with the Los Angeles Tribune magazine. This is one of the most recent issues here. So this is a cover. And then some of you might recognize this person, or is this the cover? Who is that beautiful
Dagmar.
being of light there? Who is that beautiful being of light? That is Dagmar Fleming. Just an amazing. But yeah, so which is the cover? Did Taylor just happen to make it on Dagmar's magazine? Or did Dagmar make it on Taylor's magazine? We'll never know. We'll never know. But yeah, this is just some of the smart marketing kind of stuff, you know. Here's Tom Hanks, and here's one of our clients, Jim Poole of Newcom, right? Um, these are harder to get. There can be more of an investment for these. But the point is if you're really moved by print, if print just does something magical for you on the inside, um, and you can get these. You can get these printed. You know, you can get some of the copies, if not from the LA area. You know, we'll get them for you, mail them to you. You can take them to places. I know several of our clients have taken them to like Chamber of Commerce. It's great to have a book. Everybody has a book. How many people have this though? You know, much more difficult. So yeah, I'm glad your wheels are turning, and I'm sure they are. You were talking about a question of payment. It is possible to make money and be paid as a columnist. It is very difficult, relatively speaking. But I would kind of also answer it this way. What do you consider payment? Do you consider press payment? Are there times that you might have paid hundreds, if not thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars for press? Some people do. Well, if you're the columnist or if you're writing, you're not paying for those anymore, right? So all the stuff that Angela writes now as a columnist, she's not paying for that anymore. She paid in the beginning for us to get her out there and to get her writing, but now that she's proven as an article writer at a columnist level, all these things Angela's writing, she doesn't pay anything for. So in a sense, the payment is free press. I can't remember the last time Angela paid for any kind of article type press. I mean, it's probably been at least a year and a half. Angela could ask that question. So now it's like she's can write as much as she can handle. So she's writing like once a week, right? Maybe 2 articles a week sometimes. And there's a lot of different ways to create that. So if you did want to turn it into something where you're making money, Michael, it's probably similar to YouTube and a lot of, iHeart, whatever. You need so many views, you need so many clicks, you need so many people spending so much time on it.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Michael, some of the Forbes writers that I've had relationships in the past, whatever, what I do is I find somebody's column. Guys, this is pure gold. Write this down. Find somebody's column in a publication you want to be, support them, respond to them, comment on their article, right? A lot of people don't get comments, right? Hey, just read your article on top 5 new businesses, loved it. I got several clients that like it. I'm just going to go ahead and send it out to my database. I also shared it on LinkedIn. Do that 2 or 3 times. You think that columnist is going to be appreciative? Absolutely, they are. If you went and read Angela's article or her book review or whatever, and then you shared it on Facebook and you sent that over to Angela, she'd be tickled pink. Not because she doesn't have other people reading it, but it's so thoughtful. It's so nice,
Yeah.
right? Pick a few people out and support their column.
Absolutely. And Karen, that question was from Karen Gross. How much does one make as a columnist? But I'm totally with you on that, David. And it's much like I teach about other elements. It's like your money is in the back end, what you get and the value of getting that exposure, having people come into your world, and the bragging rights and the all of the elements like you're just sharing about it. It's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. So we're going to workshop this a little bit, or we're going to kind of create a little bit of a workshop atmosphere here, because a lot of people, they're not really sure how to write articles for the news. And I want everybody to kind of understand here that, and I'll take you out of the spotlight there, Michael. You got enough spotlight,
Yeah, plenty.
that way you can make your notes there. But here's the things you want to understand. Out of all the types of content that's being created out there, I want you to just suspend disbelief for just a second and just hear the information I'm going to share. I want to package it in a truth bomb. but just suspend disbelief, just go with me. Act like you think you know what I'm talking about for just a second here. And let me just tell you, out of all the content that can be created, the best content right now is news content. I'm not saying the news should be considered as credible as it is. But when we see things from a news organization, a news outlet, it is statistically more believable than anything else out there. Because that is fact and a truth, you want to start to ask yourself, how do I become a part of the news, newspapers, news stories? A lot of you have podcasts, and just so you know, in the big media world, they call a lot of the podcasts, oh, it's another Get Happy podcast. Nothing wrong with a Get Happy podcast, but there's a lot of them. So one way to package, you can still teach people how to get happy. You can still teach people how to improve their lives, improve their business, everything. But if you can package it through a news program, a news article, a news story, if you can frame it that way, it will become more timely. In the past, content creators, we wanted to make our content timeless, meaning we wanted to create something and turn it into a course, and we wanted it to stand the test of time. So we didn't want to talk about politics or sports or current events. We didn't want to talk about any of that because then it wouldn't be timeless. What I'm here to tell you is there's a little bit more of a shift in the marketplace right now where the most credibility is in timely. The biggest reason why people watch true television anymore, the true television that's crushing it, is really only two things. One, sports, because we don't know what's going to happen. And so people watch it in real time. Two, it's the news. People watching the news. And even the news, we don't have to go to the standard news stations anymore, right? We're getting the news through Facebook. We're getting the news through Twitter. You know, if it's a current event, we're getting it more through social media than anything else. But let me ask you this, what has more credibility to it? Being a part of a news story in a newspaper or being a part of an article in a random magazine? I'm not knocking any random magazines. We even have our own magazine. It's called Top Talent Magazine. But I will admit to you, would you rather be in Top Talent Magazine or the Los Angeles Tribune Magazine? You'd rather be in the Los Angeles Tribune Magazine. I'd rather be in the Los Angeles Tribune Magazine. Now, the Top Talent Magazine still has value. But would you rather be in the Top Talent Magazine or would you rather be in the New York City Independent? Right? There's a real estate magazine that's local that's massive here because, and it's the name of their company. I used to say what it was, but then it came across kind of negative. So I'm not going to say what the name it is, and I don't mean it as negative, but it's the person's last name. Would you rather be in a real estate magazine that's a person's last name, or would you rather be in the U.S. Real Estate Journal? Would you rather be in the Wall Street Journal? Would you rather be in the Bloomberg Original? Do you see what I'm saying? Would you rather be in the NAS? So certain of these names or brands carry with it more weight and credibility. And heck, be in both. You don't even necessarily have to choose. I just want you to have a shift here a little bit in your understanding of when it comes to you marketing yourself. Ask yourself, would you make more money if you were more influential? Would you make more money if you had more credibility? Would you make more money if you got more exposure? If you answered yes to any one of those things, then you really want to listen into what me and Michael are teaching people. That's my ICE acronym. It's changing people's lives and it's making them a lot of money. The news has more influence, credibility, and exposure. Right. So just think about that. How do I get in some of these things? Okay, so here's the workshop part of this all. I want to give you all the opportunity to talk about your expertise in the news. So for example, any one of you could tell me like what you do, and then I would tell you, okay, here's some current events going on. Here's how, you might want to write something. So I'll give you an example. I've got a client named Amy Murphy. She works with families, and families that might be considered um, different families, different looking families, families made up by not the traditional, mother, father, child, right? Maybe it's a single mom, maybe it's a single dad, maybe, very diverse situations. So, we had her write, not a Disney love story, right? And there was a lot of people really interested in it. And I'm going to share with you some of these things. But there's ways to take something that's like a current event and turn it into something. Some things are kind of just like near-death experiences. That's just kind of a hot topic that from time to time people will do. Wild stories of intuitive people, that's very good for my people, so people know that. But there's a lot of other stories that we're involved in. And I'll give you an example. So I've got a client named Whitney Diamond. She's a writer. She's a poet. She does interior design. Her and her husband own a very successive um, building company, construction company, specifically in concrete. Very diverse, right? She is a cowgirl through and through. She barrel races. Okay, she does barrel racing, and somebody wanted to write an article on all the things that women do nowadays, right? And they wanted to show like a really diverse woman, and they wanted the woman to have an athletic component to it all. And part of it was because women in sports has gotten to be really big lately. Very specifically, Caitlin Clark. Some of you, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but in the news, mainstream news, Caitlin Clark of college basketball has been massive. And she's just broken all these records and all these deals. And so, anyways, they wanted to feature other athletes. So this is the article, Miami Chronicle. I just looked up Whitney Diamond. Here it is. Today's modern day woman is also an athlete. So here's my client, Whitney Diamond, on her horse. This is barrel racing. These are really cool pictures, by the way. I love these pictures. And you might say, well, how in the world is this? What is this going to do for her? But like locally, everyone loved it. What you need to remember about marketing, at least half of marketing, and Richard is very smart at this, Richard K here, he reminds me of this all the time. Half of it is just staying top of mind. What are you doing to stay top of mind? But anyways, in the Miami Chronicle, here's Whitney Diamond, and she's just answering these questions. We came up with all the questions with the media outlet. We gave them to her, and then she answered them all. We helped her write them back and forth. This is what we did to kind of earn our money. How has your athletic life helped other roles you play? How has your athletic life put stress on the other roles you play? She's just answering them all, putting in all the pictures. These pictures were awesome. So this article went so well. Now there's a woman, you might have heard of her. She's called Beyonce. She just created a new album called Cowboy Carter. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. But it's been a little bit controversial. So again, I'm looking for angles for my clients. So I pitched to the media, hey, I've got a real country cowgirl rancher. Why don't we ask her if she likes the music, how she likes the music, do her friends like the music, whatever, if they don't like it, why? It's just one of a few things we pitched. They loved the idea. And so now she's writing she's literally reviewing, she's getting free press, so to speak, to just about her opinion of an album. Now, just to talk about her, not so much. But there's this massive news story where some country people are just hating on Beyonce's album, yet it's also winning awards and making a ton of sales. It's become controversial. I'm just injecting my clients into news stories. I'm making them a part of the news story. I'm positioning them as someone who has an expert opinion who can back up that expert opinion with expert explanations. Who here thinks that they could do that? If you think you could do that or you want to do that, just type me in the chat. I don't think it's going to be for everyone, but there might be a few people who here would like to share their expert opinion, who here would like to be a part of some of the new stuff. And what I kind of want to do with some of you in the workshop is Anybody here struggling like, David, how in the world, like, this is what I do. How do I become a part of the news? If you do, put your hand up. We're going to play Stump David. We'll see if you can stump me. But you tell me what your expertise is. And if you don't think there's any way to get in the news and media, I'll come up with a few angles right now in which, if I was working with you, this is how I would pitch you to be a part of some kind of news story. Anybody
David,
want to workshop?
David, while we're doing that, I was to say, if it was 30 years ago, you might have caught me on horseback doing my special stuff
yeah.
back in my jousting
Nice.
days.
Yeah, I saw that.
Kind of wild.
Yes, no, we could yeah, you'd be pretty easy to get press for. I'm sure you get all the press you
Back
want.
then, not anymore.
Oh, we can still get press for you. All right, Tasha, you got your hand up.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? What do you want to workshop here? And I'll do this in a way that everybody will kind of learn, from how to kind of position themselves. Go ahead, Tasha.
Okay. So I help women take control of their personal financial economy and life so that they can achieve the financial security they desire and deserve.
Okay. Yeah. So that's are you mostly just sharing that, or are you saying you would like some ideas of how to position that?
I'd like some ideas on a
Oh man,
position.
that's an easy one. Okay. Well, we just had April 15th. So we just had everybody doing taxes. So taxes is a massive thing. So leading up to that, I'd be talking about, discounts, grants, do you have a professional? I would also talk about how women are maybe different than men. For example, a lot of men, they think financial wisdom is a birthright. I was born a man, therefore I am knowledge about all things financial. Luckily, women don't have that stupid opinion or mindset. Women are like, I want to learn. Women, you'll find more women taking financial classes, more women taking real estate classes. Several of my friends are very heavy in real estate and financial stuff. They say that like 60, 70%, sometimes almost 80% are women, because women are taking over their parents' estates too. Even if it's not even the oldest child, a lot of times it's the oldest daughter that's actually taking care of parents and things like that. So all of those things are topics. Now, because we're past April 15th, I would even create some things around, hey, are you a busy woman who didn't get your taxes done? No reason to despair. I have the answers for you. Here's what to do if you missed your taxes. But these are all hot topics. These are things that are trending. One of the ways that we come up with answers too is we literally search Google trending, Twitter trending, and look at some of the things that are happening. But again, because of that April 15th tax thing, there's lots of topics, around that. I think out of all the ones that I just kind of threw out at you, I think the one I would have you write first is, you know, how much women do and how busy they are. And if you missed your tax deadline, it's okay. Here's my 5 easy tips to get unstuck with your taxes. Here's my 10 tips to get unstuck with taxes. 1, take a deep breath. 2, you're not alone. 3, don't worry about those pesky messages and letters designed to scare you. It's not the end of the world. Number 4, here's, go out and round up all this data. Number 5, and just take them through those types. And here's the common misconception. And I'm not going to pretend that this is what Tasha's thinking. I've been around Tasha before. She's pretty smart. But what some people might be thinking is, David, this isn't directly with what I have to do it. It does not matter. Okay. I was once in Forbes talking about one company bought another company years ago, straight up, didn't pay, just pitched Forbes. I was in Forbes. It was why Yahoo bought Tumblr. And I said it was a good idea. People are like, David, what in the world does that have to do with your business? Guys, who cares? I was in Forbes. All these years later, I don't talk about Yahoo buying Tumblr. Forbes wanted my opinion. They wanted my opinion on why $1 billion company bought another $1 billion company. Who cares what it was on, right? The point is it's the exposure. It positioned me as an expert, and I will always have that. So what will position Tasha as an expert? What will she always have? How can she put that logo on her website? How can she share that with people? Now, Tasha, the more I learn about your specific financial knowledge and wisdom, the more angles I could find. But it's easy. I mean, again, the stuff about estate planning, the stuff about women taking care of parents. You could write an article saying, women out there, if you are in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, if your parents are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, or beyond, get prepared now because most likely you're going to be handling their estate. And you might think, my parents have no money. They still have things. Who's going to get the things? Right? So much of hurt families and estranged family members comes from people not knowing who should get what. You know, here's my top 10 checklist on how fast and easy ways to do estate planning for your parents. 10 fast and easy ways to do estate planning for your family. You know, whatever. Does any of that ring any bells for you, Tasha? Does that get your wheels turning?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
What do you think, Michael? Do you like that? Are we on the right track here?
I'm loving it. This
Okay.
is some awesome material.
Kim, you're up. You're up next. What do you got for me? I'm gonna remove Tasha here, and then I'm gonna add you, Kim. What do you got for me, Kim?
Can you hear me okay?
I
Yep.
I can hear you.
Okay, so my podcast is Masks Off for people pleasers and perfectionists. So I help perfectionists and people pleasers to be their true selves. More specifically, I want to target teenagers and young adults so that they can start to remove or unhook from the masks at an earlier age so that they don't live a life of showing up in the world as inauthentic.
Love it. So my team knows about an article that we're going to be finding people for, but nobody else knows. So you all here are going to be the first to know about this article, and so you can tell me if you're interested. But you would be perfect for this, Kim. So because Mother's Day is coming up, there's a publication that wants to get moms giving moms best advice. So to me, this could be something really great where you could tell a mom, hey, mom, here's how to deal with a kid who lacks confidence. Here's how to deal with a kid to build self-esteem. And again, a lot of this needs to be, it's got to be shortened. We got to learn how to say more with less. I'm going to say that again. We got to learn how to say more with less. But if I said to you that there's an article being written for Mother's Day, where the best moms are giving the best mom advice, would that appeal to you?
100%.
Yeah. So that seems like a great
Yeah.
setup for you. But yeah, I mean, other places, and actually, let me just make sure that's really clear here. So sometimes holidays is a great way to cue up the timeliness of things. So because Mother's Day is coming up, everybody here, whatever your topic is, how can you relate that to Mother's Day? And then what comes right after Mother's Day? Father's Day, right? Everyone here, how can you relate that to Father's Day? Advice for fathers, helping fathers, what are things that, men don't maybe get as much support of that women get? What are some things that women don't get as much support that maybe women get? But holidays are a great way to do it. But I want to go one step further. So for your topic, Kim, and I hate getting into some of this because it gets to be a little bit of a buzzkill, but because some of your stuff is tied to mental health, which is a really important issue, and it's affected my own family and some of my children as well. Anytime something happens in the news, right? Part of the reason why we monitor the news is to see what news stories are coming out. But anytime something major happens in the news, school shooting, abuse, abuse of power, bullying, you want to piggyback those topics. Hey, yesterday, 14-year-old had enough, bullied, seriously tried to injure themselves. Luckily, it didn't happen, but parents everywhere, watch for these 5 signs to know if your kids are being bullied. Here's 5 signs to know, because a lot of times kids don't tell their parents. So here's 5 signs, 5 telltale signs that will reveal if your child is being bullied, and 5 more ways to give them the confidence to deal with it. 5 telltale signs, 5 more ways to deal with it. We're just wordsmithing here. We're wordsmithing. we're making newspaper headlines here. But yeah, that's something that Angela's into as well. She's done some great articles on bullying and different things like that. We've had several other people write articles on that. We just had a woman, and I'm gonna share my screen here, and I'll show you guys. So here, I'm just pulling up London Digest. This is a UK one, so it's a UK website, .co.uk. Some people are like, oh, I can't find the London Digest. Well, it's not .com because it's not it's not in the US. So here's the London Digest. We just did an article for a client, Amy Murphy. Nothing came up there. I wonder if her name wasn't on there. See if I scroll down here. We just did an article on this where it's very similar to what you're talking about. Oh, here it is right here. Yeah, Amy Murphy. So she talks about similar things, similar topics. So she talks about how she's dating her son. Meatball magic, mixing up kindness and acceptance one date at a time. So she wrote this also as a series of things that they're doing kind of leading up to Mother's Day. They've wanted different articles for Mother's Day topics. But I had her take some pictures. So she took a picture of a drawing, a picture of her and her kid, helped her kind of segment, make sure your articles don't have big black blocks. Break it up with numbers or bullet points. But we want human interest. We want real advice. That's a cute article, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so it can, that helpful? That get your wheels turning?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. I would just end with, again, as hard as it can be at times, and I know a lot of people avoid the news, but you really do want to kind of follow certain things in the news, and you can also set up your computer for certain keywords. So if you wanted to be notified, at any time the word bullying came up, you could be notified. So news articles, so that they'll be sent to you, but you can have certain keywords set up. By the way, anybody ever done that before? Set up keywords to be notified if something comes up? I find, yeah. Okay, George has done that. Yeah. Okay, I see several people raising it. Yeah, it's a great thing to do if there's a certain topic that you're really passionate, about, or certain things you want to talk about. You can set up keyword notification, so when it pops up in the news, you're immediately notified. But you can tie on, to that.
Yeah,
So
I'm
much is about the
thinking
Eagles.
just when you said bullying, I started thinking, okay, toxic relationships or addiction, suicide, like all of those big things
Yeah.
that can be end results of kids not having the confidence
Yeah.
or not being their true selves.
Well, I'll give you another one that's very timely right now. Kids are doing testing. So I've got, one son getting ready. He'll be a senior next year. So SATs, a big part of testing is confidence, how to give your future college kid the confidence they need to test well.
Yeah.
How to give your future college kid the confidence they need to test well. Just came up with that right now on the spot. A few alliterations there. But you could write that. You could write that right now. If I would read that. That came up. I'd be like, man, I need that. You could maybe find some statistics about how much does confidence play into testing. I'm throwing things out here. It may have zero to do with testing. But it seems like it should have something to do with testing. A more confident kid.
Just the whole
yeah.
college acceptance process, just trying to apply
Absolutely.
for college and get accepted all.
Yeah. And then in the fall, they go to college, right?
Yeah.
So, how to kick your college kid out and
With
love them every
confidence.
step of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, George, we'll go over to you. By the way, is this good? Is this helpful? If this is helpful to you, just write good in the chat. How many people and I guess I want good if this, even though we're talking about somebody else, are you learning while I'm helping these other people workshop? If so, give me some encouragement. I need lots of encouragement.
I'll give you encouragement.
Okay, George, give me some encouragement. Go ahead. What do you got, George?
Okay, so this might be a little bit more difficult. I'm working and have been for the last 18 months with a network. And most MLM companies are badly regarded, and many people want to know nothing about them. This particular one, and I was never going to do it again. We work with a product which are patches made of bio-nano crystals that stimulate two copper peptides that in turn reactivates people's stem cells. In 18 months, I've seen incredible results, not only with people's health life, but with their wealth life. I'll give you one example of each. And one of those examples will show you what the difference is. A friend of mine with emphysema, I call her, I say, I think I need to tell you about this thing. And she said, okay, I'll try for a month. I said, don't bother, try for 3 months. That's the protocol. You've got a very serious situation. After 7 hours of using the first patch, she says, I'm noticing something, I don't know what. After 10 days, she says, I've given your phone number to 4 people. This never happens in network marketing. It's always a fight. So I'll give you an example. A 73-year-old lady, she lost her business after COVID in South Africa. South Africa is $800 a month is the average wage. She now, this morning, she told me she's making between $2,800 and $3,000 a week. It's changed her perspective for the future years of her life. Her husband's 80, of their lives, completely and 100%. Now, all of that said, I'm writing a book. It's called With the Wind at My Back and the Story to Tell. I have a lot of stories, but I think, maybe I got it wrong, and maybe you'll tell me differently, but kind of the media have something about network marketing. Now, the guy behind who invented this, he wants to change the whole world's view on what a network marketing company can be. We've now hit number 32 out of the top 100 direct sales companies, and the team I'm in our company has the most momentum of any company in the network marketing space, and our team, the team I'm in, has the most momentum of any of the teams. So just let a lot of stuff towards you. I'm really interested in what you said.
That is a lot. That is a lot. But come back to the very beginning, because that's the most important part. What is your expertise in?
My expertise really is inspiring people.
Okay. So I'm glad somebody said this, and usually it happens sooner. But in the news world, there's very little perception of value to that. So that's a really good thing to say to a lot of people. But in helping you pitch people, you don't want to talk about inspiration. You don't want to talk about happiness and
no,
motivation.
I don't. I never do. It's what I do.
No, that's okay. That. So I think you said something that is more true, and I want you to focus in on that. You talked about science, and you talked about, like, what was that about? Tell me more about that.
Okay, so number one, I'm not the scientist.
No numbers. No numbers. Just 2 or 3 words. If you had to break down your expertise in the scientific realm, how would you say it? Neuroscience? What would you say? You said something about science in the beginning. That's what caught my attention. What was it?
Okay,
Okay, so forget that then for a second. It's okay. Let me ask you something different. When people say inspiration, there's usually a method or a process. The method or process in this case is going to be more valuable. Almost in everything else, you want to know about the result. But because we're teaching people how, it's the how that you're going to be writing about. I think what you do, when I very first heard the first couple sentences you said, I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy could be a regular columnist, because it's such a specialized scientific thing. Now we've kind of lost track of that a little bit here. But what is the science behind what you teach?
Okay, they call it phototherapy. Phototherapy, because it's the infrared light that comes out of our bodies that goes back into the body at a specific frequency. That would be the word.
Okay, there you go. So that is something that a newspaper would want to talk about or write about or whatever. Now, what you might do to tie it in is advances in science, advances in neuroscience, articles that are coming out, things that are coming out in journals, surveys that are being done, studies that are being done by Harvard, Stanford, these medical institutions, Hopkins, these hospitals, things like that.
So then let me tell you this. I've in the last 3 weeks, because I was speaking to some doctors in the USA, and I said, I can't answer those questions. They're medical questions. I don't have the answer. I'm not. So let me connect you with some of my medical people in my organization. And talking with a doctor in London who had a meeting with 20 doctors, we decided to make a group just for doctors and medical people. And within 3 weeks now, there's 170 people from the medical world from many countries.
Okay, so that's pure gold. This is all about positioning. This is what I want everybody to get here. Publicity, writing columns, writing books, shows, everything. It's all about positioning of it. So now, George, if you went from I lead a group of almost 200 medical professionals, and in a recent survey with these medical professionals, over 90% of them agreed that this is the #1 way to fill in the blank. You've really got something. Hey, I lead a group of almost 200 medical professionals, and I write on medical related topics of information I gather from medical experts that include people who have graduated from, people who practice at. And what they told me is, here's what I found. That can be very powerful stuff.
I love it. Thank you. Because again, everything's about posture and positioning and leverage. So this group will be 200 people, I reckon, in 3 weeks, 250, and it'll get more and more powerful. I mean, just this kind of leverage got head of pediatric oncology from a university hospital in Barcelona. Another doctor from Madrid who's done hundreds of transplants, and they're having the kind of conversations half the time I don't know what they're even saying.
So I'm gonna relate this to some of the advice that I gave before. Father's Day's coming up. Men are not good at taking care of themselves physically, mentally. They've improved. There's still a stigma to that. But again, looking for something timely, you could pitch media or write something about men's health and research, things you found from your own personal experience, advice you want to give. It doesn't, you're not trying to give medical advice. You're just trying to give your own personal advice. But then you could also share, hey, in preparation for this article, I asked my group of almost 200 medical professionals, what's your best advice for men over 40, men over 50? And you can make a top 10 list. Here are the top 10 things that these medical professionals told me that they would want to tell men over this age to do. But that would be a really interesting list.
Then let me ask you 2 questions, please.
I'm sorry. I gotta keep moving. I got a bunch of other hands up here, but you're on the right track now. I'm going to give everybody a way to get a hold of me. If you guys want to talk to me more about what we might want to do or how we might want to pitch you, Richard will kind of share a place that you can schedule some time with him, or we'll put up a place you can schedule some time with me. But yeah, I want to help as many people here as I possibly can. Irina, you've been waiting. Let's go to you next. Irina, tell me about your expertise, or tell me what you feel like might be your challenge in getting more press so that we can address that specifically.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the opportunity, David. So my expertise, I believe that I've got quite a powerful and compelling message to relay, and I'd love you to be the messenger so you can help me spread the word and consequently help more people. A few years ago, I got a call and I shockingly learned that my dad attempted suicide. And he did not succeed, but shortly after that, as he cried to me on the phone, he told me, I just felt so unloved, so lonely, and so invisible that I just could not bear it anymore. That came as a shock to me because he was always joking around, positive guy that everybody assumed that he was good, but he wasn't. And now I have a 13-year-old son who happens to be quite a sensitive, emotional soul. And I often wonder how he is going to be able to embrace all of his emotions in this society where man's strength entails to be emotionless. So being a relationship and dating coach now, I work with men and I see them working so hard on their jobs, building up their professional careers, yet neglecting the crucial need for belonging and love. So my mission, my expertise is to truly equip this man with the skills, the beliefs, the proper mentality and the mindset to help them get out of the loneliness and this silent suffering, and just to put them on the path of vibrant social connections in life and hopefully fulfilling relationship. So
Yeah.
that's
no,
what I do.
That's a great mission. Okay, I'm about to do something that you should never do on camera. You should never do on Zoom. Some of you know what I'm doing by saying that, but I am about to do something never do. I don't even know if this is going to work. I'm working without a net here. This is all live. It wasn't rehearsed, but let me see if I can make this. I'm going to try to show you more of my office here. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Let's see if I can do this. Can you see behind the ring light? Let's see if I can do it. You see all that on the floor? Those
Yep.
are all magazines. And they're stacked up, so they're in piles. But I subscribe to dozens of magazines, drives my family crazy. I've got, and I just stacked them up. We can use other articles and names of articles for inspiration. And a lot of what you're doing, Irina, and a lot of you other here, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Meaning certain topics, they're being written about all the time. And they're great things to kind of inspire us. And so I'll look at articles, not to copy an article, not plagiarizing articles, of course, but to look at like, what are they talking about? Why are they talking about it? How well did it do? What made it to the front page of a big magazine? They're doing a lot of research, right? So we can look, I mean, some of us get stuck looking at the magazines anyways when we're checking out our groceries. I'm looking at them because it's like, oh, out of all the things they could talk about, they made that list. Out of all the lists they can make on health, they made that list. To come full circle back to you, and just to make this relevant for everyone, Irina, what you're really talking about as well is just like the last person. You're talking about men's health, men's maybe even mental health. But I could make an argument that physical health could even be tied to the mental health, spiritual health, emotional health could even be tied to the mental health. So then what happens is now we're in a realm of what's everything that could impact somebody's health. For a certain period of time, I lived on the Oregon coast, and about 300 days out of the year, it's cloudy. I was depressed. I didn't know that I was depressed then, but I was kind of depressed. I was, maybe to use a better word, I had melancholy, right? But I didn't even have the vocabulary to describe that. Why am I telling you this? Because I would start to make lists, Irina, of what are all the things that can make people sad that we don't realize? What are the things that can affect men's mental health that maybe they don't? So it's like, what are the hidden life events that hurt men's mental health? The hidden life events that hurt men's mental health. Just came up with that off the top of my head, so it's probably not perfect, but we could play around with that. So weather could be an impact, but there's much bigger things, right? A lot of people don't think about stresses of the job. Men don't always talk about that. A lot of us that are in these groups, we're entrepreneurs. So our ability to do well is very much tied to the money that we make, the success that we have. And so if our business isn't going well, lots of things aren't going well. So what are the domino effects of that? So once you start to think beyond one particular story, which you have a very key core story, now it's going to start to turn into other article ideas that newspapers are going to want to pick up. So right now, we're going out of the winter months, we're going into the summer months. So there is more sun. There is Father's Day. I don't want to keep going back to that, but we are kind of coming up to that. what are some of the holidays coming up? What are some of the weather things that are coming up? If you see in the news, several companies have just laid off thousands of people. That could be an idea for an article. Hey, thousands of people were just laid off. Some of these women, some of these men. I find that it affects men's mental health more than women's. I don't even know if that's true. I would do research on that. But the point is I'm just looking for things in the news that could impact a man's health. And then how do you write an article about that? How do you do research on that? And then how would that then be tied into something? I'll give you another example. Look to pop culture. What movies come out? What TV shows come out that are maybe popular? Why are they popular? And what does that tell us about maybe men in society, or where men are at, or how men think? Are these getting your wheels turning at all?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, it's
Okay.
definitely a little bit broader spectrum than what I'm, been focused on.
Yeah, and we do need to get broader and imagine a little bit of a Venn diagram. It is what you can be somewhat of an expert in, you're passionate about, but it also needs to be what's newsworthy
Okay.
and what has human interest. Human interest kind of makes it newsworthy. So we don't want it to pertain to just one or two people. We want it to pertain to maybe one or two groups of people that have a significant number of people. It doesn't have to be a high percentage. So it doesn't need to be a topic that fits 90% of men. It could fit 10% of men, as long as tens of millions of men are in that 10%, that's in that demographic. Does that make sense?
Yes. I have a very quick question for you. What's
Go
your
ahead.
idea that the fact that men are, at least in my experience, and I think many can agree with me, men are much less proactive about improving their health life than women. And so when you suggested, writing something about hidden life events that can impact men's health, is it something that they would even read, men?
Okay, so you're talking about something else, and I want to address that. So don't let me forget. But I wanted to give you one more idea in referencing pop culture.
Sure.
On Netflix right now, there is a very popular show that has been trending. It's still trending. It's in the top 10, which makes it newsworthy. And the show is called Baby Reindeer. And it is based on a true story of a man who's a comedian, and he's telling the story, and he is stalked by a woman. And it's a dark comedy. And one of the elements of this dark comedy is he has been sexually abused by another man. And men, as compared to women, do not talk about abuse. They especially do not talk about sexual abuse. If you just wanted to write an article on that, yeah, it's probably somewhat interesting. But because this show is really popular right now, it has, in a sense, opened a door for you to say, hey, I'm really glad this show's out and it's exposing this. And I think one of the reasons why it's popular is because this topic isn't normally discussed. And as a champion of men's health, because of what happened to my father, I'm really thankful that this show exists. I hope that there's more shows like this exist. Now, probably a decade or so ago, Tyler Perry came out on Oprah and talked about him being abused as a kid. And again, one of the reasons why it made such big headlines is because men don't talk about that kind of thing. But once he did, the floodgates kind of opened, and all of a sudden, in a certain news cycle, you saw a bunch of stories of other men coming forward, right? So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that cultural event, that timely, something's happening, something's being discussed online, social media, it's in a top 10 list, it's a movie that's doing really well, it's a show that's doing really well, and then you can play that out. If I sat here and thought about it, I bet you there's probably 2 or 3 other shows or movies that you could also discuss. use those things, leverage those things, use them as a springboard into what you want to talk about. Decide what you want to talk about, and then look for the people that are opening the door for you, that are making it a hot topic. Now, let me come back to your previous comment, your previous question, and I'm going to do it because I think it's good for everybody here. But say it again. I want everybody else to hear it as well about the relevance. Go ahead.
Yes, I had a question based on something that you said as an example of a title. At least that's how I understood that, the hidden life events that may impact men's health. And in my experience, men are typically not proactive, very proactive, or as proactive as women, for the sake of comparison, as far as improving their health, especially when it comes to mental and emotional health.
Yeah. So
how do I get them to read it?
So I hope everybody listens to this, because this is a very common thing that's missed in people's businesses. Yes, we're thinking about this particular individual, but what we need to think about is who handles these types of things for the individual. Like, a lot of times a mother is helping the child. You're not really looking for the children, you're looking for the mother that has the children, and you're giving mother signs. Don't be afraid to write articles for women. How to know if the man in your life is hurting on the inside. How to know if the men in your life, telltale signs that the men you love have faced some kind of abuse. And it doesn't have to be abuse. It could be how to know if the men in your life, including your father and grandfather, have hidden trauma, right? So the loved ones in a place where you're equipping the loved ones to help the men in their life. My father is probably a little bit, if you go back each generation, like my grandfather, he only talks about sports and weather. We just lost him in the last year, so he doesn't talk really about anything meaningful. It's kind of his generation in a sense. He'll talk about the weather, he'll talk about sports. He's not going to talk about feelings. But because I'm conscious and aware enough to know, I might be able to help somebody. So what I'm saying, Irina, is be willing to reach out to not just the men, but the people who are in the man's life who want to help those men. And there are a lot of people: daughters, sons, brothers, aunts, sisters, mothers, best friends, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely different angle.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised too how many even clients people find, even though it's not for them, it's somebody in their life that they want to help. Right?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no problem. On a scale of 1 to 10, how helpful was that? You can give any answer. It's okay.
9.5.
9.5. Okay. All right. It gives me room for improvement. I'm glad you did that.
Always.
We would have just hung up. We would have just hung up if it was 10. I guess I got to keep going then. All right. We'll go to Kathy next. Michael, how's this going? I try to do this in a way that everyone's learning. Is everyone still getting something out of this in the workshop mode? Okay, good.
I think it's going great over here.
Okay, good. I hope you all are also getting the, I know we have people that do shows here and podcasters. I'm talking about how people pitch the news media, but in a sense, you are the media, right? Because you host a show. So I hope you're reverse engineering this as well in terms of what are the topics you're talking about on your show? How are you approaching those topics? Are you using keywords in the description of your show? If you're not, you're really missing out on some opportunities for Google searches, for Google trends, for social media trends and searches. There's a lot of searching out there going on, and if you're not using keywords right, categories right, if you're not using that right, you're missing out on some opportunities to find your people, not just your audience, but also maybe people you interview. Okay, and maybe your audience is even bigger than you might think, right? If things aren't going the way you want them to go, there's 3 things you can change: who you sell to, what you sell, or how you sell. Okay. So Mercedes has always had really high-end cars, 15, 20 years ago. They're like, we have a great brand. Why don't we introduce a C-Class? It's going to be more like a $30,000 luxury car, right? They didn't change what they sold. They're still in the car business. They're still selling cars. They just changed, we're going to sell to another demographic of people, right? Some people just sold to men. Then they also started selling to women. You can change what you sell. There was a point in time that movie theaters were going out of business. The guy selling popcorn outside on the street was making more money than the people selling the movie. What did they do? They moved the popcorn inside. They're still showing movies, but fast forward to today, they're making more money selling you movies and wine. I mean, sorry, they're making more money than selling movies. They're selling wine, burgers, drinks. They got video games, right? They're still in the same business. They just changed what they're selling. Some places changed how they're selling, right? It used to be Good Guys, Circuit City, Best Buy. There was all these retail stores out there. They all started going out of business because everybody was buying online. Best Buy switched faster than a lot of other people and got selling online. They're one of the few electronic stores left in the marketplace because they changed how they sold. They also introduced something called the Geek Squad. These other places didn't have the Geek Squad, right? The Geek Squad is one of their primary sources or channels. So when things aren't working, you could change what you sell, who you sell to, or how you sell. So just sneaking in a little business building, wisdom there. Go ahead, Kathy. I'm going to pull you up now.
Thank you first.
No
And
problem.
I don't know. I'm a singer songwriter, and when you said how you sell, who you sell to, and all of that, well, I'm one of the 4 Black women who was in country music to chart the daggone Billboard and all those charts. And on October the 8th, 1988, and got no mention or anything. It just all died. And so when Beyonce came out, then basically I did a whole entire thing on my website about my life, just because I needed to be heard. Yes, there's not being an artist when you're ignored.
Make a note right now. Stop, make a note, send David information on that. I have multiple publications right now that want to talk about Beyonce's album, and they want people's opinions. They want diversity. So your background and the fact you used to do that and how hard it was, and now you're, whatever feelings you can give me on that, we might give you a little bit of coaching, but that's a very hot topic, and it won't be a hot topic forever. After a while, everybody will kind of share their angle or their story, and it'll just kind of go away, and we'll be on to the next thing. So send that to me. We're actively working on that.
Thank you. However, see, I'm the type person, Do the Dream TV, Do the Dream. I was in CEO space with you guys. Do the Dream because of Bernie. He said that. I wrote a song about it. So that's just me. I like the positive, right? So I've written a song. This is why I'm asking. Okay, the Torch of Love, because the Olympics coming, and it's a song that I wrote about the Olympics. However,
I love it. I love it. Timely news, something people care about, international appeal. Love it.
France is bringing us the torch. France gave us the Statue of Liberty, and they're bringing
sold.
Now, here's what I'm doing. I want to get a celebration like Hands Across America, but Voices Across America. I want to include voices, as many as I can, singing the Torch of Love throughout these years that it's going on, have these little mini celebrations. So, and it's unity, friendship, and love. It's on the positive note, because we have been a divided nation, and I live in a divided household, but we can come together under friendship, unity, and love. We don't have to agree with everybody, but we can come together, especially sports. So this is what I was saying. I have this project. I went to school. I'm in college right now, and I have to narrow it down to a daggone PSA. And that is hard because it's a huge project. And people are going, well, it's 4 years long, but it's not. It's many little things of bringing people together so that we can all create this song. And it's a book, the lyrics is
it's great. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you probably already thought of this, but let me give you one idea here. And again, you probably already thought of this, but what if you could get past Olympians, and they're out there, and we know some. What if you could get past Olympians to be a part of singing that song. You know, and I know some of us have, and we can go into the chat and probably put some name, but there's several of these past Olympians that are in some of our groups, that are in some of our databases, that have written books or whatever. But yeah, what if you could get past Olympians to be some of the people doing the singing? That would make it even more newsworthy, maybe.
And to kickstart it, that'd be great. I'm writing that down. I'm also a part of the Red Hat Society, which they have millions of them all over the place.
Okay, so let me just stop you there. So I love everything you're telling me. It sounds like you don't even need me here, but give me one specific thing that you feel like you're stuck on. I'm not seeing any stuckness. I'm seeing nothing but amazing here. Tell me one thing that you think you're stuck on that I could give you an idea of how to maybe turn it into a media pitch.
PSA, 30-second, 60-second commercial on that. Narrow that sucker down.
I don't understand. What do you mean by so we're talking about how to get things into like articles or the news, more news centric stuff. So what is it? What specifically are you trying to? I don't understand the PSA part.
How would you narrow what I'm saying down to a public service announcement, inviting people to do just what I just said?
Oh, about the song?
Yeah, and inviting people to be a part of it.
You already nailed it. The Olympics is coming up. There's a lot of preparation happening for the Olympics. One person, Kathy B, has rounded up former Olympians to sing a song celebrating this. I mean, you nailed it. I mean, with so much diversity and so much fighting and wars. One of the great things about the Olympics is that we bring people together from countries all over the world. And here is a person who has brought together past Olympians of all different races and countries together to sing a song that she wrote. I mean, it writes itself. I mean, what you said is it. I mean, I can A+ it, but you're already on the right track. You found something timely, the Olympics. Lots of news, not lots of news outlets want to cover the Olympics. That is something else that we're seeing a lot of things for. So that's good. You already got the timely piece in there. And then where's your level of expertise? Well, yours is the singer, songwriter, bringing people together. So you injected yourself in there. You made it newsworthy, timely. You did it. The only thing you need is the news outlets. We've got those done. The London Digest would be interested in that. The New York Independent would be interested in that. The DC Chronicle would be interested in that. I mean, it needs to be written well, but in terms of getting the angle approved, you nailed it. Now, the only other thing you might want to think about is how hard do you want to make it? The way that we constructed it, we got to go do a song, we got to get people involved, we got to film it, we got to, what you might want to do is there an easier way to still say all of those things in an article without creating too much work for you, right? But you've got something amazing. Yeah, no, I think it's really good. What you could do, Tracy, I'm sorry, Kathy, what you could do is you could even write an article just about, here are the top 10 things I love most about the Olympics. Here is the number one thing I love most about the Olympics. And it's how we bring all these people together. We got the Gaza war, the Ukraine war, we've got Iran issues and border issues and election issue, not just the US election, there's elections going on everywhere. Election issues, and India just had a big election, whatever. And what I love about the Olympics the most is how it brings more people, together. I mean, that in itself can and should be an article. If that was written well, that's very timely and very newsworthy. Good or great?
Great.
Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna go to my favorite Kelly, my favorite Kelly in the world. My long lost friend. She used to call me. I feel like singing. You don't bring me flowers anymore. I haven't heard from
flowers. You're
I
right.
haven't heard from Kelly in ever.
Honest
Kelly,
to God, I want to tell you this. I got
Okay.
this at the last minute to come to this event. And when I saw that it was you and Michael Neely, I'm like, you guys are rock stars and I truly adore you. David Fagan, I love your book, Michael. I got it. It's fantastic. And David,
Thank you.
I miss our Wednesdays together. You're the best trainer out there, bar none. You are amazing. So
Oh, wow, thank
I'm
you.
thrilled to be here today. I'm serious.
Awesome.
So yes, any feedback you can give me would be great. I started a
Okay. Well,
podcast. I work with Speakertunity, but I started a podcast related with Speakertunity. They're the sponsor of the podcast called the Six Figure Speaker Spotlight, and
Mhm.
it's dedicated across all industries to people who have grown their business exponentially using public speaking. That's
Mm,
the theme. Incredible guests. I mean, I have no trouble filling the show with
mhm.
amazing people across multiple industries globally that have just, I'm blown away by the content. So that part I just love. Next, okay, now we have to figure out how to monetize it and how to get more, how to build out press. And so I'm with the experts, the two of you. I can't even believe it. It's like
Yeah.
Christmas.
Well, I'm just so glad we're recording this. I'm gonna have to go back and
Right.
I'm gonna have to go back and clip this clip out. Well, yeah, it is. It does take work, right? And it's not. There's no one thing. Okay, there's no one thing. There's no silver bullet, as we call it. That kind of. It's really playing the odds. The odds are if you do this, the odds are if you do that. So it's great. So you made a couple different comments and kind of questions, and I'll kind of redirect those and narrow those down. But first, in a more overall way, I'll just say that you know I love how you take massive amounts of action. And I can tell that most of the people on here that I've seen so far, you guys are all taking action, right? You're action takers. So that's half the battle right now. It's just, you went out and did it. You didn't necessarily have all the answers. You didn't have it figured all out. You didn't have a, 5-year plan of my podcast day by day. You went, you did it. So, that's good. So I want to compartmentalize this. I mean, there is a little bit more of a monetization conversation to a show, and I'm going to put a podcast in the bucket or compartment of a show. But then there's also getting press for a business, a show, a person, whatever. And press isn't always directly, and I know you know this, but just for everybody listening, press isn't always directly tied to the money. Matter of fact, most of the time it's not. Like people, I've been on the Today Show, I've been on Fox and Friends, I've been on all these big programs, I've been on Neil Cavuto multiple times. People don't say, "Hey, I saw you on the Today Show. I got a blank check here. How much? How much to have you in my life?" It doesn't really happen that way. So what it is we get that press, we got to share it, we got to leverage it, we got to talk about it, we got to email it, we got to post it. We got to turn it in to different things. So I want to share some of that with you, and some of you guys have seen some of these things, but you've got to share it, you've got to leverage it. Kelly, I'm going to bring on somebody, and I'm going to answer your question. And I'm going to give you some ideas, but I also want to bring on somebody else, Jenny Carrington. Is that okay with you, Kelly? Can I bring on this person here? So let's see here. Let's see if Jenny Carrington is on here as well, because I'm going to tie her into what we're talking about with you and a couple other things as well. So let's see if she turns her camera on. She was waiting for me to, oh, there she is. Okay, so I'm going to add her to this. So Jenny, I'm going to have you do what I had Angela do. Will you just kind of share your experience? We've been around each other for years. You've done some writing. We had you do some freelance writing. Before you know it, you've been a columnist, and I don't want to steal the thunder, but you had kind of a cool story that happened last week. But can you share a few of the milestones of writing and writing with us and for us, and kind of how that's evolved? Because I'm going to tie it in here to Kelly and some other people in a second.
Sure, yeah. So hi everyone, my name is Jenny Carrington. I'm best known for walking across America, 3,000 miles on foot, and raising awareness about social and environmental impact issues. And I met David on my walk across America, and I was, very intrigued and inspired by top talent as an agency, as a PR firm. And over the years, I have been able to write for several, various publications, including the Los Angeles Tribune magazine, the Los Angeles Tribune newspaper, the New York City Independent, and now upcoming the Miami Chronicle. And I've also met other connections, through my work with David, that got me published in other magazines, including Wild Magazine and in the Limelight magazine. So I think I've just named, at least six magazines and newspapers that I've been published in. And that open, at first I was a little bit skeptical, I was kind of like, is this really going to make me credible? What kind of credibility is this really going to give me, or influence? And although for me, because I'm not selling a product right now, so my interest was never to get direct revenue. I know that for many clients of Top Talent, it has resulted in, people actually signing up for coaching sessions or purchasing a product or service. For me, it was really about building partnerships. So the ability to have credibility in those newspapers was about getting my name out there, to have relevance. And just this last week, I was invited by a startup company that I work for, to a big business conference in Miami called Emerge Americas Conference. The tickets were $700, and they were going to pay for my travel to go down there, but they weren't going to pay for my ticket to get in. They were just going to have me meet them after. And I said, well, you know what? I'm actually going to be able to get in with a press pass. So when I applied for a press pass at the conference, what they needed, they had a list of credentials, and they said, well, you have to be working for an accredited newspaper. And I was actually able to supply. I don't have that many followers on Twitter or Instagram. That was like another criteria. But so they denied my pass at first, but when I replied back with all of my list of articles that I had written for Top Talent, they gave me a press pass, and I was able to get me and my cameraman in, and I was in the front of the front row photographing Pitbull. And I now have an article, coming out about Pitbull and his commitment to empowering youth, which is tying into my commitment to empowering youth in Los Angeles County with an upcoming nature-based education program. So that whole thing is going to be huge for me, because I'm going to be able to put that in front of the school. I'm going to be able to put that in front of benefactors and sponsors. And, I reached out to David to express my sincere gratitude for that. And it took a year or two, but this win is so big that it was all very worth it.
Yeah. So press passes, that's another really great thing about being a columnist, being a writer, having those credentials. Some of you guys are familiar with the term byline. A byline is, an article that's by you in a publication. Angela, Jessica, me, we all have bylines in USA Today. We have bylines in all kinds of different papers. What Jenny's talking about is bylines. She has bylines in a bunch of stuff we set up, but she has bylines and things that she got, on her own. Bylines can be very valuable if you know how to leverage them. So sometimes it's making money, sometimes it's saving money. So Jenny just saved a bunch of money, and now had opened up to access. So Jenny, I think there's some people here that might even want to interview you on their podcast and have similar interests. But you mentioned schools. Can you just tell them real quickly, like some of the people that you do work with or does create money, how you raise money for your nonprofit, and some, maybe one or two of the big deals, or how you work with schools. I think there's a bunch of people here that would love to work with schools in California. Kelly is in the same Southern California area as you are as well, but maybe you can just give a quick explanation on that.
Sure thing. Well, it's been a long journey to get directly into the school system. We did a lot of community-based events first. I do have a 501c3 nonprofit. So if anyone is interested, my company does consulting. So I'm happy to be available to consult with you on how to, formulate your nonprofit or get your 501c3, which are two different things. We basically we contacted a liaison. So we found a parent liaison that works more on the front facing side, more on the public facing side, and was able to create a relationship. It's all about relationships, as David will tell you. It's all about building and developing relationships, which is what I love about, the Top Talent JV, for example. We really get to know each other. And now, we're going to be doing our first school program is a nature-based education program, Planet versus Plastics. It's a very exciting 2-day immersive education event in Los Angeles County, and that will then lead to doing it in the district. And once we're in the district, that will lead to doing it in more schools. So you have to start small and be willing to take that first step. One step at a time is my motto. And, be willing to plant the seed and harvest it, a little bit later. I think that that's the big lesson for me.
So everybody, thank you everybody for listening in here. And Kelly, I haven't forgotten you. I'm going to come back to you, but we need to do something here really quickly. You guys are a good crowd. You guys Jenny, you may not know this, but Michael Neely, he's kind of a big deal. And so Michael doesn't know that I'm going to put him on the spot like this, but today is Jenny's birthday. And some of our plans fell through, and so we need to make it special. So I'm gonna have Michael Neely by himself sing happy birthday to Jenny. If you feel sorry for Michael and you'd like to join him in this, then I'm sure he would love the appreciation. Michael, I for one will join in and help you. But we hope more people will join it. So if you'll take yourself off mute, I want to sing Jenny happy birthday to give her a special day. She just had a big week. She had a few things fall through. Who here will help me? Raise your hand if you'll help me sing happy birthday. Okay, good. So take yourself off mute on the count of 3. We're just gonna do the quick verses here. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Twinkies, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jenny.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Okay, so as far as talent scouting today, we all failed on singing. None of us are. Okay, that was very poorly executed. I blame myself. I got everybody off, but all right, Jenny, happy birthday. It's the thought that counts, right? It's the thought that counts.
Absolutely. And so again, I also I'm a client of David's, but I also work with David. So, if you need anything or have any questions, feel free to contact me or just contact David. He'll patch you through.
Sounds good. We'll get you set up. I'm going to come back to you here, Kelly. But yeah, this is just a little break here. We're workshopping. I'm confident we're going to be done early. We mapped out several different hours here. I wanted to get to as many of you as I can. Ashley, Elizabeth, Denise, you guys have your hands raised up, so I'll get to you. I'm going to bring back up Kelly here. Kelly's like, what just happened? I was asking a question, and then I just next thing I know, we're all singing, and now I'm the only one up here in the spotlight. What is going on here?
Yeah.
So no, tell me, and I'm going to go about this as always, as a way that'll be helpful for everyone. Tell me what makes your best guest a best guest. Not just I don't want to know about the type of people. I don't want to know about the type of guest or their talents, but I want to talk about the people that will have the best topics on your show. What are some of the best topics that good people have brought on your show? Or what are some of the topics you would like to discuss on your show with good people?
Well, it really is about the way that they've used the theme of the show is all about how you use public speaking to really exponentially grow your career, grow your business, or get your message out there. And so I start off with, I now have my own little formula about how I do it is I take really good care of my guest on the front end because I want to make sure that people know why they're here, what they've accomplished. Okay, so I start with that, and then I want to know.
Let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you just for a second here because you've already given us one thing that's really good, and I don't want anybody to forget it here. But say that first part again. You're helping people with speaking, their careers. Say that part again.
The goal of this show and what I try to do is I want to know how you used public speaking to exponentially grow your business, your
great.
authority, and
Great.
got your message, to get your message out there.
Great. So just to do this in a way that people can see consistently what I'm doing with everybody's message here, what's something that I did with everybody else that I might do with Kelly right here? That is, we want to take this and we want to make it relate to more people in the everyday average world. So in the everyday average world, what does the average human being have to, in a sense, speak about, speak in front of people, or even do that is similar to that? So I'll give you one example, a job interview. You know, they're speaking to an audience of many, they're speaking to an audience of one. There's a certain level of stress that comes in a job interview. You could not be talking to anybody. You could just be talking on camera. It could feel like you're speaking to an audience of many, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the point being is that this really unique thing to speakers could be positioned in a way that it fits more people. And that's kind of what we want to do for press or the newspaper. So it could be, you know, Kelly O'Hara here, who works with speakers, who works with people who have to present, that need to persuade, that need to win somebody over, right? Who's going to teach you how those skills are applicable in a job interview. They're applicable in so many different things. They could be applicable in what? Somebody asking somebody out on a date.
Yeah.
It could be all kinds of things. So how do we take whatever's being taught in that?
Mm-hmm.
What else would it fit? Job interview, ask somebody out on a date, asking
Sales
for a pay raise. We could call it difficult conversations. How to have difficult conversations with difficult people. 5 hot tips from Kelly O'Hara. How to have difficult conversations with difficult people. 5 hot tips from expert Kelly O'Hara, you know, host of the Da 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 show.
Oh, wow.
Right? And she would say, hey, just like I tell my speakers in front of a group, this and that, the same thing applies when you want to fill in the blank.
That done. Okay, as always, you are the man of words. That is brilliant.
So let's build it out. Like, if most speakers don't know that a lot of times a certain point of their presentation should feel like a conversation, right? So a good presentation is like creating a good conversation at times. So how do we create a good conversation in other difficult interactions, right? How do we do that? And I'm just trying to find the unison. So what's 5 things you could do? What's 3 things you could do? So like eye contact is good on stage. Eye contact's good one-on-one, right? One of the things that we talk about is the 7 feelings that people need to feel in order to move forward, right? So I even do that one-on-one, right? You know, people need to feel like you're the authority. People need to feel like you have a solution to their problems. People need to feel like there's a sense of urgency. All of those things apply in an audience. Would all of those things apply in a job interview? Probably. Would all of those apply in a date? I don't know, maybe.
You want to know you're with the best, so that may be the authority. You want to make them feel like you're with the best.
So the answers are out there, but what I want everyone to get out of that is I want you to get the formula. What is David doing here to make every person fit or become a story? What is David doing here to help everybody turn their expertise into a newsworthy article, right? And so what is it? 1, how do we take your expertise and make it fit maybe more of the general population? How do we make it fit in an intriguing way, an interesting way? How are we making it timely? So one thing we haven't done is we haven't made it, you know, timely. Now, to make it timely, again, job layoffs are always talking about, but there's also jobs hiring. You know, Tesla's supposed to hire 1,000 new people over the next 6 months. Google's supposed to hire 500 people over the next da 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 da. Hey, in such and such California, they're building a new warehouse center. They're going to hire 500 new people. For all of you looking for jobs, I just looked on ZipRecruiter, and there's now more than 40,000 jobs on there. And the number one reason why people don't get a job is because they don't interview well. So I want you to take my top 5 speaker skills and make them your top 5 interview skills so you can get your next job. Right. I'm just taking those things that exist and I'm making it fit. Right. So I use layoffs as an example. I use this people hiring as an example. If it was before Valentine's Day, hey, for everybody who wants a date for Valentine's Day, whether you're married or not, here's 5 guaranteed speaker tips that will secure you your next date, that your next date will be the best day you ever had.
I miss Wednesdays like I can't tell you with you. And it is your zone of genius. This is just your zone of genius. I cannot believe what you come up with.
I can
just
see
wanna
why you
get
make a
right.
good host. You make your guests feel so good.
Oh, I just
Feels so
love
good.
this. You're brilliant. This is amazing, really, truly. Every one of the
Good.
people that you've talked to, stunning. I thank you so much. I will be taking all of this.
Yeah. Let's go one step further. What are some of the challenges that you deal with people who want to be speakers? They might have imposter syndrome, so that's a talking point.
They're introverts. They're
Yeah.
introverts. Or they feel like you have to be really loud and proud to be able to be a good speaker, but it's not true. I mean, I love podcasting because it's an intimate
Okay,
platform.
so can you convert that to real everyday life in other ways?
Okay. Sure. I mean, people feel like that again, they feel like if you're an introvert, you go to a cocktail party. It's a scary experience for the introvert. And they're the ones that actually spend all the energy because
Okay,
the louder person takes all the energy.
So you just brought up something else, scary and fears. So you could be writing an article saying, hey, as somebody who specializes in helping people overcome their fears as a speaker, I've become somewhat of a scary specialist. I specialize in dealing with the scary. And here's what, no matter what the scary is, here's what you need to know. And then talk to them about fear, talk to them about scary. But you solidified yourself as an expert in that because you worked with speakers. It's like, well, David, she's not even talking about speakers anymore. Who cares? She's now in the New York Times. She's now in the Huffington Post. Who cares? It's still relatable. It's still connecting. Do you think that somebody who's written up as a fear expert or an expert in overcoming scary, which is just a fun way to say it, would also then in turn make a good speaker coach? Absolutely.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about it like that, David. That's really pretty amazing. It really is. Beautiful. I can't thank you enough. I can't even thank you enough. That's amazing.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll catch up again more soon. I'm gonna try to get to 2 more, and then we'll wrap it up here. Thank you guys for hanging in there and getting to hear about what some of these other people do as well. So we're gonna go Ashley, and then we're gonna go to Elizabeth. Ashley, go ahead.
Hi, that was gold.
Hey.
That was awesome.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're
Great.
getting something out of it, even though we're talking to somebody else. That's always the goal. Is even though we're dealing with one person, everybody can kind of pull something out of it.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
yes. I'm like stirring up here. Okay. So this is a little dramatic, but I have 2 sisters. They died within 3 days of each other. One from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She was dealing with that for a year, so we knew it was coming. And then 2.5 days before she passed, my other sister chose to leave the planet. And they all lived near my mom. So overnight, I became the main caretaker. I moved her from Florida to Colorado. And I was in for a year because I could do a year. And I thought I was hoping she would survive a year. And she got healthier, happier, more stable. She lived 4 years. She was a narcissist. her personality was fractured into what we called her 6 channels.
Mm.
The last 3 weeks, 3 days of her life, she was the most aligned, clear, and coherent I had ever experienced her. And it was the best 3 weeks and 3 days of my life with her. I have written a one-woman show about my whole journey with her. And I perform it, and I want to reach, or the show wants to reach 1 million hearts, to inspire hearts, to heal this relationship, the mother relationship, which actually goes beyond that. It goes to any relationship. Men are in the audience, and they're like healing their relationship with their fathers.
Yeah.
So it's yeah.
Yeah. So everybody that's listening, keep in mind, I'm going to say this in a new way here, but you want to keep in mind, we want to figure out how we come at this through different angles. And it becomes the funnel, right? So some of us have we feel like we have such a narrow thing, we have trouble finding our audience. What we got to do is we've got to open that funnel up that. Now it's still going to get smaller as it goes down, and hopefully out the bottom come, clients and partners and angel investors and speaking opportunities and whatever. But we do want to open that up at the top there so that it's kind of a funnel. So what I'm always doing with everybody is I'm always thinking, okay, yes, you have a very specific topic, you have a very specific story, but within that topic, within that story, there's other things. There's other things going on. So for you, Ashley, and you could even be related, you're even related to some of the answers that I might have given earlier, but I'll go about it from a different level. So one piece we want to talk about is the timely piece. There's another article I have a few clients working on right now. One of them is Masadi. Couple big stories right now, and they've happened before, but they've happened again right now, is the Netherlands has a legal way to end life. So there is a woman, big story about a woman who's bipolar, who's choosing to end her life. She has a boyfriend, family. She's going to go to the Netherlands. She'll end her life. And so a lot of people commented on this story, which created another story about another person going to a place in South America that also has this assisted way to end your life. So right now, it's a very timely article. I mean, it's a very timely topic. So somebody who has gone through what you've gone through, you could find an angle to tie yourself to, hey, I'm reading these stories. This is how I feel about these stories. It's easy to believe. It's hard to believe. I think there are some answers. I'm not a professional, but I'm not this, but I've dealt with some professionals. Here's what they say. We can get real specific, and I'm glad we're not getting too hung up on the specifics, because the most important part, again, is what's that funnel? What are your topics? Your topics are mental health. Your topics are families. Your topics are loss of a loved one, right? And so let's talk about that loss of a loved one. Instead of talking about the people going through end of life, the other part of the story is, who did they leave behind? And there's a lot of people who have been left behind. There's a lot of people who are missing somebody. So to write to that, so you can even play off the same article. Hey, I read these articles about this woman who's choosing to end her life. And although I have some advice for her, I'm not going to write to them. Instead, I'm going to write to the boyfriend she's choosing to leave behind. I'm going to write to the family she's choosing to leave behind, because I have a message for you. Please know that it's not because of this or because of that. Please know you didn't do anything wrong. Please know that, hey, I have 5 things that every person needs to know who's ever had a loved one choose to leave them. Do you see what we're doing here? The most important thing is to kind of see what we're doing, the steps that we're doing. And hopefully I'm also giving you some specific ways, some next steps that you could take. But I also want you to see the formula, because if you get the formula, well, then whoever's listening, whatever you're doing next, you can kind of start to sort of, plug and play here. But hopefully there's some specific things as well. But I bet you could write something really good to the people who have been left behind, so to speak. Is that true?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
'Cause I will
And
have
then
some-
at the end of that is just a real short thing, because we don't want to be real salesy. By the way, my own personal experiences had led me to create a one-woman show, and the show is this, and it can be found here. If the article is written about you, what they'll typically do is they'll talk about you, they'll talk about your story, they'll include the other stories, and then at the very end, they'll say, you can find Ashley here, you can follow her here. They're not going to advertise you because it's the news, it's not an advertisement, but they will tell them where to find you, where to follow you. Now, on your website or wherever they follow you at, well, then they're going to see that you're putting on a show, because on your show, that's the funnel, right? So you're writing it, they're putting it out there. Well, then if they're clicking on the website, or they're going to your social media, or they're going to the event page, or whatever, then that's kind of funneling them down.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it'll also lend more credibility to your show. Hey, I've got a one-woman show as featured in the New York Independent, as featured in the Los Angeles Tribune magazine, right? Now that lends more credibility. Are more people then maybe interested in the show because it's been talked about and featured in these different media outlets?
Mhm.
Wheels turning? Helpful?
Yes, very, very.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Something else that is another hot topic that's always is getting cycled through is taking care of family members. Now, there's the celebrity effect. One of the ways that we're trained as publicists is to always find the celebrity angle.
Mm.
For example, right now, Bruce Willis is having to be taken care of by his family. A lot of people know who Bruce Willis is. Even his ex-wife, Demi Moore, who's a celebrity, is affected by this because they share children together. So
Right.
she's a part of that story. So there's an angle there to advice that can be given to family members, and using the celebrity as the door in, the angle in, the opening to kind of discuss it. So when things happen to celebrities, it raises awareness, and that's, some people hate the celebrity stuff. I love the celebrity stuff because I want to leverage it.
Yeah.
I
It
want to
connects.
leverage it to say what it is I want to say.
Yeah.
Celebrities' names, they Google, they trend, right? So if you talk about Bruce Willis, when other people are talking about Bruce Willis, your story might come up, your show might come up, your episode might come up, your article might come up, your website might come up. A long, long time ago, when I had in a galaxy far, far away, about 10 years ago, I had a California cable TV show called The Hollywood Entrepreneur, and it was celebrity business news. And we taught everything through celebrities, and we would talk about celebrities. And one of the things that's really important to have on a good show, and for every podcaster listening, this is the most common mistake, the biggest missed opportunity that I see in podcasts by far. They do not operate in segments. You should have segments. Dave Letterman's best segment is top 10 list, right? Dave Letterman. People would just listen to the top 10 list. Newspapers would just put in the top 10 list. Bill O'Reilly had a segment called Patriot or Pinhead, right? There's lots of sports shows that have all these segments. Have a segment where for just 2 to 3 minutes, hot or not, it can be all kinds of crazy things. Have segments. If you want to get your show on really big networks, they want to know your segments even more than your show. Tell us your best segment. Anyways, in my cable TV show, copy and other things, like I've told you I did, I created a segment which was bittersweet, and it was called Icon or Idiot. Icon or Idiot. And the guests had to choose Donald Trump, icon or idiot. Kim Kardashian, icon or idiot. That segment was watched 10 times as much as my show or anything else. Everybody just wanted to hear me and the guests have to say icon or idiot. They just, and I moved away from it. It really wasn't my brand. I'm a much nicer guy than that. But people just loved it. Richard Simmons, icon or idiot. Who are you? Can just throw anybody's name in there, icon or idiot. And everybody kind of had to, talk about it or say. So one really big piece of advice here for podcasters, have a segment, right? Have a segment. 2, it's okay to be controversial, sometimes really good to be controversial. 3, celebrities, using celebrity names. Part of the reason why I brought up that story is when I did just a segment on Kim Kardashian, it went viral. It went viral just because it trended at a certain time that she did, but I don't even know what. And it went crazy. So think about how to use celebrities. Think about how to have segments. Think about how to be a little controversial at times. You want to talk in sound bites and in segments, when you take clips, things like that can be really good. So now to bring that full circle back to you, Ashley, right now, Bruce Willis has been probably the latest case of that. But Michael Douglas was in the news, off and on not too long ago, having cancer. I mean, there's lots of things. And then I'll give you one other celebrity angle. This is good for everybody listening right now. If you have a topic, find what celebrities celebrate that. For example, John Travolta has an autistic kid, so he supports autism. You may not get him for a lot of things, most things. But if you said, we're supporting autism and we're donating money to autism, or we're having an episode on autism, can you give us a quote on having an autistic child or whatever? You're 100 times as likely to get that from the celebrity if it is their cause. Holly Berry, she supports domestic abuse. She raises money for it. She's donated massive amounts of money for it. Find out what these celebrities' causes are. Tie yourself to them. Tie them to you whenever possible, even if it's only talking about it in the news and articles. Another hot tip that can fit in. One more thing. I'm gonna come back.
Go.
Just so I was talking about keywords before, just so you know, a lot of celebrities, their publicists monitor them. So in our Beverly Hills publicist days, we don't represent as many celebrities anymore, but we've done events with Eva Mendes. We've represented Paul Stanley of the band Kiss. When we represent them, we have their names set up. So we get hit when somebody says their name. So another advantage is if you're celebrating them, there's a good chance, or at least better chance than average, that somebody on their team is being notified you just used their name. So occasionally you can even get a celebrity saying, hey, thanks. Maybe it's from the team, maybe it's not really them, but someone says, hey, thanks for including us in your article. Hey, thanks for mentioning us in da 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 da. We believe, the fight for autism is a worthy one. So again, just another thing to have those names there. Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
Is there a quick way of getting in connection with the team of a celebrity? Like what's that?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Of course.
I guess there probably are relatively easier ways, but I wouldn't say that there's really truly any easy way. One of the pro tips that I would give you that agents use like us or publicists use like us, if you go to IMDb has a pro option. It costs a little bit of money a month. I don't remember how much, but we've got a lot of these different things. But if you submit to IMDb Pro, all the celebrities there, they'll have all the, producers, directors, cast, whatever. It'll have all their stuff on there. Anybody that's on IMDb Pro, they share contact information there. Now, again, that contact information might be their agent. It might be their publicist, right? So it's their team. But an IMDb Pro account gives you access to all those people's information. So it's what it's one of the tools the professionals use.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Yep. Just gave away one of my pro tips. I'm gonna put myself out of business here. Just giving it all away today. Just giving it all away. All right, Elizabeth Johnson, you're the last.
Hey there.
Hey.
So I have an event that I'm putting on. It's a speakers festival in online in August, and called She Leads Vision Fest, a celebration of women's empowerment. And I do have a podcast, and I've already thought that in some way I will use it to, you know, publicize it, and first to get speakers and then later to publicize it. But I'm kind of wondering if you have any other ideas about, like, you know, like how I can put the word out there about the festival other than my podcast.
So that is something that's going to be very locally centric based, because most people that are going to come to the festival are going to be local individuals.
It's online.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't catch that. I apologize. Yeah, I was going to say that typically then you're going to go to local papers and places. Okay. So it's online. Great. So then all the stuff still applies. So what do you think, you know, some of the big themes are of your festival? Give me some themes so then we can start to tie that to media outlets.
Yeah, it's empowerment. It's self-actualization.
Okay,
It's
so let me stop you right there. And I've said this before, but I really want everybody to get this. And people get a little bit mad at me for this, or I hurt their feelings. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I just want to tell you, the news media world does not care about empowerment, motivation, inspiration. They don't care about your Get Happy podcast or your Get Happy feeling, you know, your affirmations. They don't care about any of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just saying that I want to help you package what you want to talk about in what they care about. So the news, again, they care about things that are timely, things that their readers or their listeners or their viewers are really going to care about. But if it gets too fluffy, there's so much fluffiness in the world, they don't consider it legitimate enough or serious enough or whatever. So we want to quantify it. So even if it is happiness and love and enlightenment and all that, we need to turn it into some type of quantifiable result. You know, how is it saving lives, improving lives, getting jobs, making money, saving marriages, things that are more concrete, that give proof of whatever it is you're teaching or doing. So I that wasn't really for you, Elizabeth. I wanted to make sure everybody kind of just heard that. So if we go beyond the touchy-feely stuff, what are some more quantifiable things that might happen in there?
Well, I mean, the speakers that I have so far, they're all basically coaches to help people, you know, like heal themselves from physical things or issues, you know, get more confidence,
So mental health.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So again, so a lot of this is going to tie to stuff we did before too then. So it's like, you know, what are all the ways in which mental health show up or become topics? Medication, solutions without medication, right? Things that will replace medication, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big topic that the kind of the real world wants to talk about. School violence, bullying. We need to take those things and convert it into those things. Homelessness, or what's the new term that we're using? We're not saying homeless anymore. Now we're saying
Home free.
no, that's the positive spin. I'm being serious, by the way. In the news,
Houselessness.
Houseless.
is that what they're really saying? Houselessness?
Yeah, because everyone has a home as
Unhoused.
they define it.
Unhoused.
It's just
Oh,
not
they
a
don't have a
house.
house. Okay,
Unhoused.
houselessness.
Houselessness.
Oh, unhoused. That's the word I was thinking of. Unhoused. They're unhoused. Okay. So if you tie this to like the amount of people that are unhoused, like your solution will help people who are unhoused. It'll help people on medication. It will. Do you see what we're doing? We're turning it into things that are quantifiable, that are real topics that are being discussed in the media. San Francisco, Portland, like these big cities, they're having massive problems with unhoused people. How many of those problems are related to health issues, mental health issues, medication issues, things like that? Could we tie it to any of those types of things?
I don't think unhoused, no. Because like the people that are going to be attracted to this festival are people and women who want to create the life that they really want. A lot of them are into 9-to-5s and they don't feel fulfilled. They feel that they're not living their purpose. They're living they're kind of unhoused from their own life, I suppose.
So you're talking about, so everybody understands this here. What Elizabeth is talking about, and Elizabeth, what you're talking about, I'm not talking about you like you're not here. Elizabeth, what you're talking about here is really something different. So just keep in mind what I invited people here to come on and talk about. And it's okay, we'll talk about your thing. But what I invited people to come on and talk about here is, hey, I'm struggling to get my message in the mainstream media. David, what are the angles? So what I'm doing right now is I'm talking to you and saying, hey, if we wanted this in a big city newspaper, if we wanted this on like a TV network, something like that, these are the ways we would need to go. But really what you're saying is, David, although I care about all that, I'm just trying to fill my event. What are all the ways I can fill my event? So there's a little bit of a different list of those types of things. And I'm sure you're already doing all those things. If you got coaches on there, hopefully they're helping you promote it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you're getting the people that are involved in the event to create different types of media images. They're sharing it on Facebook, they're sharing it on LinkedIn, they're emailing it out to their people. One other thing that I would recommend that you do is do a mini pre-event launch party. Get some of the guests to come on like a Facebook Live or something like that, and kind of tease the topics and bring on some of the people and just kind of hang out on Facebook Live for an hour or two and just bring on a bunch of people for a few minutes each, and just kind of tease the topic and just kind of create awareness or interest. You could even do that once a week, the month leading up to the event, like every Friday, and give some real stuff, but just tease it a lot. Those all could be good ways to help fill the event. But yeah, nowadays the real key is getting people who have followings and giving them tools and making it very easy for them to share that event with the people. But yes, you could get more credibility by also getting some more mainstream media, like some big city newspapers, but they typically don't cover as much of the online's events unless they can show a lot of, 2 words, very important, write this down, social impact.
Okay.
And that's just another fancy way to say human interest. Social impact. What's the impact that this will make? What's the ripple effect? If you can show, man, this one thing will have a ripple effect through the community. It'll have a ripple effect through people's careers or businesses. It'll have a ripple effect through people's families. The impact is just massive. When we go to Kenya, we get a lot of press there. We don't pay for any of it. We just put the stories out. We bring a lot of people. We'll have thousands of people in each one of our audiences. We'll talk at universities. But how we pitch the press, impact, impact, impact. This is impacting 3,000 people at this event. This is impacting 10,000 people here. Over 162 United Nations countries will hear this message. The impact is massive. The impact is in different languages. What are we doing? We're quantifying it in hours, languages, cultures, countries, networks, and we're showing impact, impact, impact. This impacts women. This impacts students. This is impacting kids. This is impacting the educational system. Helpful? Say yes.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I that's really helpful, but the social impact and about, the human interest and to quantify it. Yeah. So
yeah. And I'll give you another way, and this is great for anybody promoting events. One thing that people have said at companies is they said, the combined, we have a combined knowledge of 137 years of da-da-da-da, right? Well, take this, I have 10 guests who combined have 2.3 million hours in coaching people into them better selves.
Wow.
Through my 10 guests, it represents 13 degrees, 29 certifications, and they do business in 34 different countries and in 7 different languages. Between the guests on my group, they've written 19 different best-selling books. Over 50% have been international bestsellers, and 2 have been on the New York Times best-selling list. What am I doing? I'm just quantifying it.
Yeah.
Just
I love it.
find ways to quantify them and show off your guests.
Yeah. I'm going to put those questions into the intake form now.
There you go. Yeah. How many best-selling books do you have? You know, what
Yeah.
kind of best-selling status do they have? How many? Here's another one I love to do. Like, since I'm on a roll of putting Michael on the spot, I'll put Michael on the spot here again in a second. But I'll go first to show him I'm a fair sport. I have spent, by last time I've checked, I have spent, and I'm not talking number symbolically wise. I'm talking literally. I've spent over $900,000 on tools and education to make my business better. I don't know if Michael's thought about it, but Michael, I'm guessing you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I
you
try to
could,
not
if-
think about it, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. My team's like, David, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
But the point being is we want to tell people, look, we're asking you to invest in yourselves. I don't want you to think I'm asking you to do something that I don't do. Right? Like I do this. In 2016, I got the chance to speak at an Infusionsoft event on the main stage. As a part of that, they said, hey, we'll give you a breakout room of hundreds of people that are qualified people that you can sell to. I signed $100,000 agreement. I tell this story from time to time. I paid $100,000 at that event, which was a breakout session. There's 3 other groups going on. I ended up having about 300 people in my group for an hour-long breakout session, right? In addition to my main stage. That day, I made $150,000. Within the next couple of months, it turned into $275,000. When people heard that back then, I mean, that was a lot, right? Now, I actually ended up paying $75,000. I would have paid more if more people would have showed up in my room. In order to get the other money, they had to have so many people show up. Anyways, I just want to be really accurate. But bottom line is, I paid 75. I would have paid 100, but I paid $75,000, and I made all of that money. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because we should be investing in ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that that's the best way, and sometimes the best way changes, and now there's a new or other way. But to come full circle to you, Elizabeth, I think it's important for the people coming to your festival to know that your coaches have invested in themselves, and it's another way for you to quantify. These are serious people, right? They're not winging it. They didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, coach, why? I can be. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but your people are more elevated than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
They have been there. They have done that. They're going to show you the way. I
love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen you around before. I think you've been to some of my events or something.
I have.
So Michael, thank you for having me on. Thank you for giving us this time. I know we blocked out plenty. You know, we could do some other Q&A, but the workshop stuff, I'm sure we've done plenty here. You know, I'll kind of leave it to you to figure out how you want to wrap this up. But I just want to say thank you for connecting us with great people and allowing us to kind of share our Feature Me Now program. If you guys didn't see that, if you want to know more about opportunities, you can go to featurememore.com. It'll say who it's from. It's from Michael. We're tracking these things and things that came in today. And then we've also got a link with Michael and things like that. So there's multiple ways that we're going to track people back to Michael. So he has credit for that as well. But, you know, he just cares mostly about you guys getting help, you know, him serving, you know, his people, the people that have podcasts and more. He didn't ask too much from me other than for me to come serve, and I was happy to do so. So thank you, Michael, for letting me do that.
Well, thank you for sharing of your time, David. I know how valuable your time is for me. And I even teach this is time is our most valuable commodity we have because we can always make more money. You can't make more time. So I really appreciate you. And man, talk about golden nuggets today. Everybody, just let's see it in the chat, what you thought of today's talk here. And I can tell it's valuable, David, simply by watching the room. We've gone 2.5 hours. And we've had very little drop off. We've had some, but I know people also had other commitments and had to jump for their own coaching calls and business. But at the same time, people have been sticking around, and that's a sign that I believe everybody's gotten great value of it. I know that I have, and that's it for me, man. Just thank you so much, brother. It's great
maybe-
words of wisdom.
Yeah, and we'll do some things like this again where, it's not the Shark Tank, it's kind of the Dolphin Tank. We can do some pitches. You guys can pitch us, what you're doing. You'll pitch us your shows, you'll pitch us the angles. If you like that, let Michael know. You can let me know as well. But, since a lot of you guys are in Michael's database, let him know if you want to do this again. But we can, continue to hone this in to kind of help you guys figure out to pitch.
Yeah.
And I guess I would leave you with this. Doria Cordova, one of my clients, friends that we did a book for, one of the things she talks about is the new definition of wealth, which I really agree with. And, I helped write and create a lot of content for her book. And the new definition of wealth, and you made me think of this, Michael, talking about time, even beyond time, might be access. And, there's a lot of people that are, living under a bridge. They got a lot of time, but they don't have access. And the richest people in the world, what do they do when they have all the money? They want access. They want to be in that restaurant. They want the backstage passes. They want the best doctors. They want the best medicine. Money might be a way to get access, but you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have the access to things, and that's one of the things that I think me and Michael try to do for you. We create access to different platforms to different people. Specifically us, we're always working to give you access to the media, access to big city newspapers, access to Fox News and Bloomberg TV network. And we just did a couple shows at ABC 15 here in Arizona. Access. So one, that's what we're doing for you. If you want more access, come to us. But flip that around on yourself as well. Walk out of this going, how am I giving people access to information? How am I giving people access to expertise? How am I giving people access to great guests on my show? How do you become kind of the gatekeeper of access? What are you going to put in your vault, so to speak?
Yeah.
But thank you all. Good to see you, Dagmar. Glad I got to hold up your magazine, show off your beautiful picture. Glad I got to meet some new people, reconnect with some old people.
Yeah. There's a note in the chat from Sharon. How do we get access? Everyone who attends will receive over 1,000 in show host Kickstarter kits. I think that's something we're going to, we'll probably email that to people who've attended.
Yeah, so I've got some checklists for you guys here on bios, some templates, some of the things that we're using in the media. I'll show you one example. Some of you guys have seen this before, but I'll show you an example of this here. And people were starting to duck out and had to go, so I was going to accommodate you guys, but this is what we were going to show. This is an example of one thing that will help our clients create at different times. So this says top 10 reasons to listen to David Fagan. This could be top 10 reasons to hire David Fagan. This could be top 10 reasons to be interviewed by David Fagan. But then what this is this is a list of your accomplishments. So this is just me as an example. Isabel has one, my client Jim Poole. We've done this for different people. But a lot of people talk about a one-pager or they talk about a media kit. A lot of that stuff really isn't being used anymore. People aren't going through the sites or whatever. So you got to get a little more creative. This is something that we've used for a couple of years, but we're always kind of visually improving it. So some of the things that we're going to give to you is some of these checklists where clients, pay us to kind of help them go through this. We're going to give all these things to you. So like, here's a checklist form for you. If you said, David, what do I put on my top 10? Well, you put your accomplishments. Well, what kind of accomplishments? Well, here's a list. 15 accomplishments that qualify you to be a money-making, world-changing expert. So what kind of awards do you have? What kind of testimonials do you have? And, you can go through the whole list. I won't list them all out. What's also great about this is if you don't have something here, well, then you know what you need to kind of maybe create to kind of help build that up, right? So I'll show you, and this won't even have to be a wait for an email. We've got something up right now for you. Isabel, what is that at? toptagency.com / I think it's bio builder. Let's see. Let me type this in. Let's see if this bio builder. Is that it?
Let's give it a click and
Yes.
see.
Sorry, I kept trying to unmute myself.
Bio builder. That's what it is.
Bio builder. Yes. I'll also put it just directly into the chat.
Yeah. So you'll see some visual aids on there, some checklists and some things like that. Something else that'll be a part of something that's sent separately is we have a top 10 list of what to do once you get the publicity. Right. And so I'm going to send these things to you, but I'm also showing you like where they exist kind of online. So I'll show you this, for example, here. If you go to the Feature Me More website, this is really good for you to look at. There's a lot of good information more than just, opting in. But the Feature Me More website here, this talks a lot about the programs, frequently asked questions, about different types of media. Here's a lot of screenshots of people we've had in the press, some of the flat retail rates, proof of results. We educate people on, what a feature is, what a source is. A lot of people don't understand these kind of things, but this is some of the verbiage that's used in media. Some more clients that we've had in press. You might know some of these people. But what we have is a list of like, what do you do once you've been in this? We help you create these kinds of images and we show you kind of where to send them out, how to post them, things like that. So here's Michelle Wilson. I don't know, some of you guys might know her. She has a show. That's kind of one of the reasons why I pull her up. But some of the articles, we're not only doing these articles, but then we'll create these images that you can then go post on social media. And we kind of give you a step-by-step process. As a client, we do a lot of this stuff for you, but we're also showing other people in these lists, ways to kind of like go in Canva and, create some of these types of images. They have some really easy stuff that you can just do a screenshot, drop a picture on. But Michelle does a really good job, following kind of what we teach with like the QR codes, the branding, the videos. And there's a few of them in particular that are just like really easy. Just out of curiosity, anybody here use Canva? I mean, we have a whole team in graphics, but I find that a lot of people kind of the cheat sheet or the cheat program, the easy program is just Canva nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I wanted to show you. So like this is something that we would create. So you see this. So not only is it the article, but now drop it on. This is just a screenshot dropped into a Canva thing, post it on there. The article itself did not get her as much as when she posted it on social media and it became a conversation and people started to message her. Really, really important. Some of my other clients, when they did this, they shared it with friends and family, and friends are saying, hey, I'm so glad you talked about this. This has been bothering me. This is, like they're in tears because they changed somebody's life, right? So impact, again, impact. How do you want to measure that? So hopefully that didn't move us backwards too much, but I'm going to send you some of those things. So Michael, I'll probably just give those to you and then you can just give them to
Yeah,
everybody.
just get
that
it out.
needs
And
to.
we've tracked who's been here for this. So I just want to confirm with you, you want this not to go to everybody who registered, but people who actually attended?
I'll leave that up to you.
Okay.
But for those who did attend, I wanted to give you some things right now. Those of you who stayed to the end, I'm just giving you some instant gratification there, where you can kind of click on some of these links and see some of these things really, really quickly.
Love it. Awesome. Well, once again, David, thank you, brother. You've been amazing. I've learned so much here today. I know that everybody else has as well. And I'm so appreciative of you and what you're sharing and doing in the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, you bet. Ciao, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and keep an eye out for your email for the goodies. And we're also going to put a replay up in case you missed any part of it. You want to review it. We will make the replay available within about 48 hours. All right. So ciao, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.